What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5 Su Chapter 91. Sasuke's Advice. Kawasaki's Layout. Unstoppable. Danzo. Tsunade. Senior, isn't it too early to teach Sasuke swordsmanship now? Itachi naturally recognized Kawasaki's sword. This sword is a good sword. I heard it was collected by Lord Orochimaru. Kawasaki waved his hand. When you were Sasuke's age, you were already fighting on the battlefield. The sooner you learn, the sooner you will become Grandmaster. Itachi said no more. Sasuke fell in love with this sword at first sight. He played with it for a few times, and then drew out the sword. The sword was bright and the cold light flashed. Thank you, teacher. As expected, the child was easy to coax, and Sasuke immediately smiled. Uchiha family territory. After a brief greeting with everyone, Kawasaki walked into Fugaku's bedroom. Fugaku sat on the bed with his eyes open, but his irises were gray and his vision was almost gone. Hearing the sound, Fugaku turned to the source of the sound. Is it Kawasaki? Fugaku asked aloud. Now he could only recognize the outline, but he guessed that it should be Kawasaki. Why is the clan leader so embarrassed? Kawasaki smiled and spoke in a relaxed tone, not showing any sadness for Fugaku's condition. Fugaku also smiled easily. I wanted to keep Obito, but he finally escaped. Kawasaki shook his head. Obito brought great disaster to the Uchiha clan. If he hadn't intervened, Uchiha might no longer exist. Fugaku naturally didn't want to let Obito go, but he didn't discuss with Kawasaki and acted alone silently. I heard that in the end, Fugaku and Obito competed in pupil power, and both were injured. Fugaku's eyes were almost scrapped. Obito, due to the blessing of Hashirama's cells, recovered quickly. Presumably, his strength has greatly increased now. He took back the power of Kakashi's eyes. Maybe his strength has increased significantly. Kawasaki returned early because he was afraid that Obito would make a comeback. I have set up a summoning circle for you, why don't you call me back, or Itachi and Shisui? Kawasaki didn't mean to blame, but just understood Fugaku's thoughts. Fugaku sighed. Itachi and Shisui is too young, I was afraid of accidents, so I didn't recall you. Fugaku paused. I didn't contribute much to the family, but you have been working for the development of the family. After seeing the future, I feel that I am incompetent, and I am very grateful to you. Since I decided to give my eyes to Itachi, I have no regrets. I thought I was well prepared, so I directly activated the time and space seal array. I didn't expect Obito's wood style to be so powerful. We were suddenly short of manpower. After the time and space seal was over, I didn't expect him to have help. Later, I was unconscious and the enemy withdrew, so I didn't recall you in time. Fugaku slowly explained everything to Kawasaki. As Uchiha, we all work hard for the family's strength. Don't belittle yourself. You led Uchiha and didn't suffer any major losses. Don't mention any regrets. Itachi is still unmarried, Sasuke is still young, and the future is long. You haven't witnessed Uchiha become the strongest force. Kawasaki comforted Fugaku a few words, although it was not easy for Fugaku to be the clan leader for these years. But with Kawasaki's intervention, the Uchiha clan is still alive, and Fugaku does not need to blame himself too much. Fugaku did not want Itachi and Shisui to take risks, and underestimated Obito, which led to today's result. No one is perfect, and it is reasonable for Fugaku to have such thoughts. At this point, the impact is not great. After all, the family has not suffered much loss, but the big move of the time and space seal formation has been exposed. Kawasaki's words made Fugaku feel a little warm in his heart. Kawasaki joked, you have exhausted your pupil power. Fugaku looked at it with an open mind. It doesn't matter, anyway, I have decided to leave my eyes to Itachi. Kawasaki opened the Sharingan and checked Fugaku's eyes. You overdrew before, and now you need to rest. It doesn't matter, since you have returned, take away the pupil power of the transcription seal. Fugaku said. Fugaku can see the outline now because Kawasaki's pupil power remains in his eyes. Once the pupil power is taken away, Fugaku will be completely blind. Okay, since Fugaku has made a plan, Kawasaki is no longer polite. Now the family needs him, whether Fugaku can see or not is not important. Blindness is inevitable, he must take good care of his eyes. When the body recovers and Itachi meets the conditions, the fusion of the eternal Mangekyo will be carried out. If the pupil power remains in Fugaku's eyes, it will affect the recovery of his Mangekyo. Advertisement. After Kawasaki split the pupil power, he found that this process is not a simple process of dividing a part of the pupil power to the eternal eye to recover. Instead, the total amount of pupil power will also be limited. Kawasaki's hand covers Fugaku's eyes, and a familiar pupil power gradually emanates. Pulling his hand back, this invisible power is stripped away with the technique. Kawasaki touches the eyes lightly, the technique flows, and the pupil power slowly enters the eye minister. In an instant, the eyes feel refreshed, and after the pupil power is replenished, the whole eye is refreshed. But now is not the time to think about this. After the seal was peeled off, Fugaku's eyes were completely dim. Chief, how are your eyes now? Fugaku stared at his dim eyes and looked around. He said calmly, it's pitch black now, Is this what it feels like to be blind? Chief needs to endure for a while. Itachi's physical condition is not suitable for fusing your eyes at present. Kawasaki said. Fugaku waved his hand indifferently. It's okay. It's just right that you are back. The position of chief will be handed over to you. Kawasaki had agreed before leaving, but now Obito has regained Kamui's left eye, and the threat has increased. Some plans must be accelerated at this time. No problem, but I need to vigorously promote my succession to the chief. Fugaku tilted his ear in confusion. Don't you hate this kind of trivial matter the most? Kawasaki was helpless. I really don't like it, but Obito has regained his eyes. We must take the initiative to get rid of Danzo, who always opposes us. Only by pulling out Danzo can we exchange interests with the third Hokage. Fugaku frowned. Danzo had been targeting them many years ago, and rose again after being dismissed. It was all because of the third Hokage's protection, and even the assassination of Danzo was tolerated. It is even more difficult for the outside world to completely eradicate Danzo, and it is not easy to deal with Danzo. Kawasaki is well aware of the third Hokage's protection of Danzo, but the third generation is far from being as simple as it seems. From Fugaku's succession to the chief of the clan to his murder by Itachi, it is obvious that he lacks some wisdom. If Fugaku is a little more alert, the whole clan will not be massacred, and he will not die at the hands of his own children. Therefore, Fugaku's understanding of the third Hokage and Danzo is still superficial. Since Kawasaki has accumulated enough capital for Uchiha, he should do something at this moment. Kawasaki believes that it is necessary to analyze the third generation to Fugaku and improve Fugaku's quality. How can he accomplish anything by himself, and Fugaku cannot stay out of it? Fugaku, your understanding of the third generation is too superficial. Fugaku himself knew that he was basically a complete idiot in politics. Therefore, he had been following Kawasaki's strategy, and now that Kawasaki had returned, he was eager to hand over the position of clan leader. It was precisely because of this job that Kawasaki did a better job. Kawasaki seemed to want to analyze the third Hokage's mind, and Fugaku pretended to listen attentively. Kawasaki cleared his throat first. When the third generation came to power, he and Danzo played the good cop and the bad cop, and jointly suppressed the major families. Weakening the strength of the major families has greatly consolidated the control of the Hokage's high-level power. Fugaku nodded silently. Indeed, when the third generation first took office, there were many powerful families in the ninja village. Especially the Senju family from the first and second generation, who left behind huge wealth and inheritance. If Tobirama had not passed away unexpectedly and the heir of the Senju family was still young, how could the position of third Hokage fall to Sarutobi Hiruzen? Kawasaki continued. Although the third generation has many things that are inconvenient to do personally, they can be handed over to Danzo to handle, but this has also virtually indulged Danzo's power expansion. Of course, the third generation also has selfish motives. When suppressing other families, they also favor their own family and give them a lot of benefits. Danzo's method is different from that of the third generation. On the one hand, he writes a blank check to the Shimura family. On the one hand, he squeezes the resources of the Shimura family, but in fact, he secretly transfers these resources to his own forces. In this way, Danzo's subordinates are all diehards, and their loyalty to Danzo far exceeds their loyalty to the village. Danzo's power expanded, and he became more and more unscrupulous. In the process of suppressing the family, some unexpected things happened. For example, Hitaki Tsukumo's suicide. Fugaku was shocked. Hitaki Tsukumo was the work of Danzo? Didn't he commit suicide? Kawasaki waved his hand. The Hitaki family evolved from a samurai family, and they valued their reputation. How could the third generation not know how much the public opinion had hit the Hitaki family? How did the rumor spread outside? It was the work of Danzo's roots. How could the third generation not know about such a big rumor in the village? Obviously, Danzo's behavior was silently accepted by the third generation. Fugaku frowned. Hitaki Tsukumo's death, didn't it weaken Konaha's power? What Fugaku said was not unreasonable. You know, in the Second Shinobi World War, Hitaki Tsukumo's sword once frightened Sand Shinobi. It directly led to the tragic death of Scorpion's parents and also laid the seeds for the Third Shinobi World War. Kawasaki chuckled. No one is perfect. How can the third Hokage predict everything? He just wanted to give Hitaki a warning, but he didn't expect him to commit suicide. The third Hokage had been planning the succession issue for a long time, and the task of suppressing the family was given to Danzo. And he himself supported ninjas without family backgrounds, such as Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and even later Minato. Fugaku couldn't help asking, what about Tsunade? Kawasaki replied, it's helpless to accept Tsunade as a disciple. After all, you are the third Hokage, and Tsunade is the grandson of your teacher. You can't refuse to accept him. Fugaku nodded in agreement. By the middle of the third generation's rule, his goal was basically achieved. Advertisement, although neither Orochimaru nor Jiraiya were suitable candidates for Hokage. But under his inheritance of the will of fire, Jiraiya's disciple Namikaze Minato became the heir of this spirit. When Minato came to power, everything was still under the control of the third generation. After all, Minato had no family background and had a Jinchuriki wife. When neither Orochimaru nor Jiraiya could become Hokage, Namikaze Minato was naturally the best candidate. When Minato first came to power, the third generation allowed him to establish the Anbu belonging to the fourth Hokage. But he did not disband his Anbu and always held it in his hands, which showed that he did not completely give up power. However, Obito triggered the Nine Tails Rebellion, which completely disrupted the third Hokage's layout. This was also the key turning point for Konoha's decline from prosperity, and the starting point for our Uchiha clan to become increasingly difficult. Fugaku groaned. The Nine Tails Rebellion undoubtedly pushed the Uchiha clan into the abyss. Back then, the second generation Tobirama used very clever political tactics to set up a police force and gave full authority to our clan. This is the highest honor that all families have. But the actual purpose is to exclude the Uchiha from the upper echelons of Konoha forever and marginalize our existence. Fugaku sighed. Indeed, when the second generation ordered the establishment of a security team, the whole clan felt honored. Who would have thought that this was a strategy? Kawasaki smiled and said, "This move perfectly balances the vanity of the Uchiha and the overall interests of Konoha. Tobirama's intention is to make the Uchiha indulge in honor and gradually weaken our strength. If Tobirama had not passed away suddenly, the Uchiha clan would probably have ceased to exist long ago. Neither the third generation nor Danzo has Tobirama's vision. Coupled with the Nine Tails Rebellion, the suppression of our Uchiha has become more public. In order to avoid suspicion, Fugaku followed Danzo's arrangement during the Nine Tails Rebellion and protected non-combatants to evacuate. Unexpectedly, the villagers mistakenly believed that the Uchiha clan did not participate in the battle. Danzo took this opportunity to move the Uchiha clan to the edge of the village, laying the groundwork for the subsequent rebellion. Kawasaki took a sip of tea, moistened his throat, and returned to the topic of the third generation. Although the third generation's defamiliarization has been effective, after the Nine Tails Rebellion, the elites were sacrificed. The death of his biggest supporter Minato and Jinchuriki Kushina was beyond the third generation's expectations. The third Hokage was in trouble both internally and externally, and Danzo once again proposed that Orochimaru be the fifth Hokage. Danzo had colluded with Orochimaru when selecting the fourth Hokage, so the third generation directly rejected it. The reason for being rejected by the third generation was that Orochimaru would never be controlled by him, and might even be biased towards Danzo. At this time, Danzo is no longer an assistant of the third generation, but an enemy. Therefore, the third Hokage had to come out again and take over the Anbu founded by Minato. With the Anbu under his control, the situation was stabilized. Fugaku frowned and thought, what about Orochimaru's betrayal? Kawasaki chuckled. How could the third generation not know about Orochimaru's taboo experiments? He knows it. It's just that the third generation needs Orochimaru's power, just like after the fourth generation passed away, Orochimaru also contributed a lot to the small-scale provocation of rock shinobi. But the third generation never expected that Danzo would not hand over power after the fourth generation passed away, so he began to steal his people. He kept exaggerating the taboo experiments on human bodies, coveting the power of wood style, and completely pulling Orochimaru into his own chariot. By the time the third generation found out, Orochimaru had already defected. Due to his personality, Orochimaru did not explain, and Danzo deliberately framed him, so the third Hokage planned to give up Orochimaru from then on. As for the extent of Danzo and Orochimaru's cooperation, the third generation did not know. But Danzo had already taken the position of Hokage's assistant, and controlled countless members of the Root Organization. In order to maintain the stability of Konoha village, the third generation had to begin to tolerate Danzo. At that time, the Third Ninja World War had just ended, and we Uchiha were frequently excluded, and many members of the tribe were dissatisfied. The idea of reform was almost known to everyone, and Shui trusted the village as mentioned above. If Danzo had not insisted on taking Shisui's eyes first, our Uchiha clan might have been desperate long ago. Fugaku knew Shisui's personality very well. In the past, Shisui was a true peace lover. When the radicals and conservatives in the tribe were at loggerheads, Shisui was the most solid force in supporting peace. At that time, Fugaku didn't know what was wrong with him, and wanted to try Kawasaki's method, but the result was unexpected. Kawasaki perfectly solved Danzo's targeting of Uchiha, successfully counterattacked, and even pulled Itachi, who was already concerned about it. In the subsequent contests between Kawasaki and Danzo, Danzo was defeated miserably every time. So, we Uchiha gave up power before in order to balance the situation? Fugaku asked. Seeing Fugaku start to think deeply, Kawasaki was deeply relieved. You know, he knew all the twists and turns in all this completely because of his foresight advantage. The future development of the tribe cannot rely on his wisdom alone, and everyone adds fuel to the fire. Remove the threat of Uchiha, give up the power of Uchiha, jump out of the second generation. Tobirama set up a trap to save the tribe members in a roundabout way. Kawasaki further explained. After all, we Uchiha are not involved in police work, so no matter how many problems the guards have, they can't blame us. Therefore, the third generation was very happy when we handed over our power in exchange for suppressing Danzo. For the third generation, Danzo himself is already difficult to control, so he helped us to punish Danzo. And after Danzo's roots were disbanded, the development speed of our Uchiha clan should have exceeded the expectations of the third generation. Fugaku nodded. Kawasaki's layout in the land of fields made the entire Uchiha like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins, and no one could stop it, for a long time. Chapter 92 The Senju Clan. Tsunade's Letter. The Nine Tails Rebellion. The Masked Man Obito. Fugaku thought for a moment and said, so the team that Shisui and Itachi took can support Uchiha at any time outside the village, so that the third generation dare not attack us. Kawasaki clapped his hands. Yes. Kawasaki asked Shisui and Itachi to take people out. Firstly, it would be too abrupt to control so many people and suddenly change. Second, it was to learn from the Uchiha Itachi method in the original world. In the original world, let's not talk about Itachi killing his clan members. The invisible threat he posed to the village after his defection made the people of Konoha dare not attack Sasuke. But at that time, Itachi was the only one, and he was also terminally ill. In the end, he could only arrange everything and die in Sasuke's hands. The situation is different now. Uchiha still has an entire tribe living in Konoha. For the safety of the tribe, the team led by Shisui and Itachi is like a sword of Damocles hanging over Konoha. Once there is a change in the tribe, hundreds of Uchiha elites, 2 pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan, may counterattack at any time, or directly surrender to the enemy. Fortunately, the third generation is now losing their spirit. They did not expect the Uchiha to develop at such a speed, and they had no chance or time to do anything shady. In a few years, the Uchiha clan has established itself. Kawasaki then said to Fugaku. Faced with the continuous growth of the Uchiha, the third Hokage is powerless to suppress it. Because we Uchiha have given up power and don't even do many missions, the demand for Konoha has decreased. The third generation had to reactivate Danzo and let him do some shady things to target us. Fugaku continued. Fortunately, there was your plan, so Danzo failed. Before, Uchiha was on guard, and took the opportunity to completely get rid of Konoha's control and complete the independence plan, catching the third Hokage off guard. Kawasaki was not complacent, after all, he knew what kind of person Danzo was. Now that the Uchiha is powerful, Danzo is no longer useful to the third generation. But if Uchiha wants to return to Konoha and gain power, Danzo is an obstacle that cannot be avoided. Although the third generation initially completely inherited the second generation Tobirama's policy towards Uchiha, and tried their best to suppress the 637 Uchiha. But now that the Uchiha is going to counterattack, Konoha will be in danger. Therefore, Konoha dare not act rashly. I have long wanted to invite Tsunade to the clan as a medical consultant, but that was to balance the relationship between Uchiha and Konoha. What about now? Fugaku asked. When I went to Ōtsutsuki to meet Orochimaru, I learned that the third generation had sent Jiraiya to contact Orochimaru, and even intended to let Orochimaru return. The third generation did this not out of old feelings, but to strengthen the capital to compete with Uchiha, so they went to find Orochimaru. Then do we still have to invite Tsunade back? Fugaku thought about it and asked in confusion. Kawasaki said calmly. For the third generation, anyone can be Hokage, except Uchiha. He can't move the current Uchiha, so he can only strengthen his own strength. Except for Jiraiya who has been traveling, Orochimaru and Tsunade are the most suitable candidates. Even the third generation has always thought that my goal is to increase the influence of Uchiha in the village by saving the country in a roundabout way after the Uchiha economy grows stronger. Ultimately achieve the goal of becoming the fifth Hokage. Fugaku smiled. After all these years, his vision is no longer limited to the position of Hokage. For Kawasaki, the fight between Uchiha and Konoha will undoubtedly consume their own strength. After all, the Ninja World War will come in a few years. Kawasaki accidentally put the blame on Danzo. The third generation learned that it was Danzo who planned it and Orochimaru who executed it. This made the third generation think of recalling Orochimaru. Even if Orochimaru was the mastermind, the third generation would recall Orochimaru at this time. For the third generation, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, anyone can be the Hokage, but Uchiha cannot. So the third generation must unite all available forces. The deaths of Nawaki and Dan were planned by the third generation and Danzo. Even if the third generation was not the mastermind, it also acquiesced to Danzo's behavior. Because the largest family power in Konoha village is the Senju clan. As long as the Senju clan is still there, the third Hokage's familyization will never succeed. Even if he can be the Hokage for decades, the strongest force in Konoha will still be the Senju clan. Where is the Senju clan now? Kawasaki asked Fugaku. Fugaku was silent. When Hashirama and Tobirama were in power, the Senju clan was the most prosperous clan in Konoha. Later, Tsunade and Nawaki were the hope of the Senju clan, and even Tsunade's lover Dan was very outstanding. But later, the second Hokage died unexpectedly. Then Nawaki and Kato Dan also died one after another. Tsunade was deeply shocked and almost collapsed. Tsunade left because the death of her relatives was unbearable for her and she vaguely sensed something. Now I want to bring Tsunade back to the Uchiha clan, both to strengthen the power of Uchiha and to fight against Danzo. Fugaku was silent for a moment. Kawasaki, do you have evidence that can convince Tsunade? Kawasaki laughed and said, I don't, but Orochimaru does. Fugaku knew that Orochimaru was already one of them, but he didn't know that he didn't keep the evidence from that year. Kawasaki briefly introduced reanimation jutsu to Fugaku. Only then did Fugaku know that there was such a way to summon the dead. Once Kawasaki showed the evidence of Nawaki and Kato Dan's death, the third generation would face a choice, whether to sacrifice Danzo to seek Tsunade's forgiveness, or let Tsunade completely turn to Uchiha. Sacrificing Danzo can also ease the relationship between the Uchiha clan and give the third generation enough time to accumulate strength. Save Danzo? Don't even think about it, it's impossible. Therefore, Kawasaki returned to the country in a high-profile manner to hold a succession ceremony, aiming to increase the third generation's sense of crisis. Advertisement and even make Shimura Danzo, Utatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homura and others think that Uchiha has made unusual moves. While overthrowing Danzo, he can also accumulate political capital for himself, such as regaining the position of honorary elder and paving the way for Orochimaru to take office. As long as the third generation believes that Uchiha's goal is the position of Hokage, every decision he makes will fall into the orbit expected by Kawasaki. After listening to Fugaku's clear analysis, Kawasaki said, "Yes, that's about it. It seems that you are smart, Fugaku. Even if I take over as the chief in the future, I will need your help." Fugaku smiled bitterly. "I'm not that smart. You just said so much and I'm just summarizing it." He never thought there would be so many twists and turns. What surprised him even more was why the young Uchiha Kawasaki knew everything about the past. Fugaku could only assume that this was the ability brought by Kawasaki's eyes that could predict the future. "Fortunately, you are in the tribe, otherwise how can we compete with the third generation?" Fugaku sighed. Kawasaki secretly complained in his heart, not only the third generation, but also Danzo. "If I hadn't rescued Shisui, your precious son would have been destroyed along with the entire tribe in less than 2 years." In the Uchiha territory, Kawasaki explained the future plan of the Uchiha tribe to Fugaku in detail, so that Fugaku had a clear idea. In the past, Kawasaki saved Uchiha with his foresight, but in the future, it will take the wisdom of everyone. The two talked until late at night. At this time, X1313. There was a knock on the door. At this time, it must be an emergency. Kawasaki opened the door and it was Kiming. "Captain, the third Hokage asked our clan leader to come over." He turned around and saw Fugaku waving. "You go. Okay, you should rest early." Kawasaki walked out of the territory and Anbu was waiting outside. Anbu saw that it was Uchiha Kawasaki, and his face changed slightly. Fortunately, there was a mask covering it, so no one could recognize it. "Deputy Clan Leader Kawasaki, why is it you?" There was a bit of humility in his voice. After all, Kawasaki was not easy to deal with, and even Danzo fell into his hands. Kawasaki did not embarrass the other party. "I just came back to report to the third generation. Fugaku is injured, so I am going to replace him as the deputy clan leader. It is necessary to report when returning from a trip, but Kawasaki has another purpose for this trip, and he also wants to meet the third Hokage." Anbu had no choice but to lead Kawasaki there, Hokage building. It was late at night, and the lights in the Hokage's office were bright. Kakashi, who was still in bed before, was also brought here. Hearing that the third generation wanted to meet Uchiha, Kakashi struggled to come. Kakashi's mental trauma was far greater than the physical damage. Simply put, he was dizzy and swollen. He had to come to confirm whether the person who attacked him was the same person who attacked Uchiha, and who this person was. He couldn't believe what he saw and tried to deny himself. Soon, Anbu brought Kawasaki in. He just walked in to report. Kawasaki followed closely behind. "Hey, Hokage-sama, how are you?" Kawasaki raised his hand to greet. The third generation waved their hands and asked Anbu to leave. "Kawasaki, when did you come back? Where's Fugaku?" Kawasaki shook his head. "I just arrived. Fugaku was injured. As the deputy clan leader, I came here on his behalf." The third generation lit his pipe. "I want to ask Fugaku about the attack on your Uchiha a few days ago. You were not back at that time. Did you know about it?" Kawasaki yawned. "That's it. I know everything, ask me." The third generation said, "Kakashi was attacked 4 days ago. According to him, the man wearing a mask was the mastermind of the Nine Tails incident that year." Before the third generation finished speaking, Kakashi interrupted and said, "Is he also the one who attacked your Uchiha?" The third generation did not mind being interrupted, staring at Kawasaki, waiting for an answer. Kawasaki nodded. He was wearing a mask, and he is probably the culprit of the Nine Tails incident. The third generation frowned. "You also think he is the culprit of the Nine Tails incident?" Kawasaki said affirmatively. "It must be him, and I know who that person is." The third generation was shocked. The Nine Tails incident many years ago had a far-reaching impact and disrupted all his plans. Minato and Kushina, his right-hand men, also died that day. Many elites died, and even his wife passed away that day. Because Nine Tails was indeed controlled by Sharingan, all Uchiha was suspected and rejected. Unexpectedly, Kawasaki claimed to know the identity of that person. The third generation pressed his hand on the table, looking a little excited. "Kawasaki, do you know who that person is?" The corners of Kawasaki's mouth curled up. "Of course I know." Kawasaki looked at Kakashi with a complicated look. Kakashi shuddered. He kept praying in his heart, it's not him, it's not him. That man is Uchiha Obito. As soon as Kawasaki finished speaking, Kakashi roared angrily. Impossible. Absolutely impossible, Kawasaki, you are talking nonsense. Kakashi's usual lazy voice became sharp. Bang! Kawasaki kicked Kakashi, who was rushing towards him, against the wall. Kakashi was already injured, and now he was seeing stars. The third generation didn't expect Kawasaki to dare to fight in front of them. Advertisement: the Anbu outside heard the noise and rushed in immediately. Kakashi fell to the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. Kawasaki, what are you doing? The third generation saw this and was so angry that his beard stood up and his eyes were wide open. Kawasaki spread his hands and said innocently, Third Hokage, you also saw it. Kakashi was too excited, I just helped him calm down. The third generation pointed at Kawasaki with a trembling finger. You, Thinking that he still had to rely on the Uchiha family, he had to suppress his anger. He waved his hand and signaled the Anbu members to help Kakashi up. Kakashi, you should calm down too, and listen to what Kawasaki has to say first. The third generation was wondering why Kawasaki insisted that the man was the Uchiha Obito. After all, Uchiha Obito had been dead for many years. Even if Obito is alive, he was only a teenager during the Nine Tails Rebellion. How could it be possible? Kakashi was inevitably excited at this moment. Obito was his best friend, saved his life, and gave him the Sharingan. Kawasaki chuckled, walked to Kakashi, and looked down at him. I don't believe that you didn't find any clues when the other party attacked you. Maybe you don't want to believe it, but the other party has already revealed his true colors. Kakashi's pupils shrank suddenly, and he fell to the ground in pain. How much he hoped that it was an illusion, but reason told him that the face was not an illusion. Kawasaki understood Kakashi's mood at the moment. At this time, he had not experienced vicissitudes, life and death, and had not had that late-night long talk with his father. The knot in his heart has never been untied. Most of Kakashi's values came from Hitaki Tsukumo, but Tsukumo's death overturned these positive teachings. The father who once cherished his companions was eventually criticized and even misunderstood and condemned by the companions he rescued. Tsukumo's death made Kakashi embark on a completely opposite path from his father. Kakashi, who puts the mission first, still has to complete the mission first even if Lin is captured. It was Obito who saved Kakashi from this quagmire. Unlike those ninjas who blame Tsukumo, Obito regards Tsukumo as a hero. Obito's words influenced Kakashi's life and became his motto later on: cherish your partners and team spirit. Obito can be said to be Kakashi's second mentor in life. Now, it was Obito who was against Konaha, caused the Nine Tails Rebellion, and killed the fourth generation couple. The Obito who once loved Konaha, was willing to help others, and cherished his companions. How could Kakashi accept it? How should he accept it? He would rather deceive himself into falling into an illusion than face the truth. Kawasaki looked at Kakashi's lost look and understood that he must have noticed something during the confrontation, but he just didn't want to admit it. He stretched out a finger. First, let me tell you that there is a big loophole about the Nine Tails Rebellion. The third generation's eyes were solemn. If Kawasaki could prove the mastermind behind the Nine Tails Rebellion, things would not be simple. Everyone thinks that our Uchiha's Sharingan can control the tailed beasts and even control the Nine Tails. But outsiders don't know that only the Mangekyō Sharingan can control the Nine Tails. 0.8 The third generation looked surprised. Really? Kawasaki chuckled. Have you ever heard, third Hokage, that besides Uchiha Madara, there is anyone else who can control the Rakibo? The third generation thought about it, and it was indeed said that the Uchiha Sharingan could control the tailed beasts. However, apart from Madara, there was no one else who could control the Nine Tails. The third generation was puzzled as to why Uchiha had not presented this evidence before. Words alone are not enough. In order to prevent others from not believing Uchiha's words, I found evidence in another way. As for why Uchiha didn't show the evidence earlier, it's simple, there is none. If Uchiha Madara wants to cause trouble, how could she leave evidence in the clan? Besides, in that environment, even if you say that only Mangekyo can control Nine Tails, no one will believe it. They will only think that Uchiha is shirking responsibility. After all, once doubts take root, they will eventually break out of the ground. But it's different now. Uchiha is independent. Believe it or not, it's no loss for Uchiha. Kawasaki took out a scroll from his arms and threw it to the third generation. The third generation took the scroll and was shocked when he saw the seal mark. It's from Tsunade. This is a letter that I specially asked Tsunade to write in person. I don't need to say much about Tsunade's identity. She can prove that no one except Madara can control Nine Tails. The third generation opened the seal and unfolded the scroll. It was indeed Tsunade's handwriting. The letter mentioned that Kawasaki specifically found her to verify this matter. The records of the Senju clan show that Uchiha Madara, who fought Senju Hashirama for a lifetime, can indeed control Nine Tails. But there is no record of other Uchiha members controlling Nine Tails. The third generation member looked surprised. Kawasaki, are you traveling to find Tsunade? Kawasaki shrugged helplessly and said, that's right, if it wasn't for clearing the Uchiha's grievances, why would I be so busy? DS. The third generation member was silent, half believing and half doubting. After all, Kawasaki is very cunning, and what he says may not be fully believed. Chapter 93 Kawasaki Hockey Leaks, 4th Mizukage, Puppet, Konaha's shocked, Obito. Kawasaki continued. This evidence is enough to prove that the mastermind of the Nine Tails Rebellion must be someone who possesses the Mangekyō Sharingan. At that time, the only one in the clan who had Mangekyo was Chief Fugaku, and Chief Fugaku was under your surveillance at the time. The third generation realized that there was indeed such a loophole. It has been rumored for a long time that Uchiha's Sharingan can control the tailed beasts. But the only one who can control the 9 tails is Uchiha Madara, who has a record. Does it really take the Mangekyo Sharingan? In the future, we need to be more careful about Kawasaki and Fugaku taking over Naruto. Kawasaki's reasoning is not wrong, this is indeed a loophole. The Mangekyo Sharingan is not something that can be found easily. But this only proves that the Nine Tails Rebellion was not caused by Konoha's Uchiha, and it cannot be concluded that the man was Obito. Kakashi was still trying to refute. Kawasaki waved his hand. This leads to my second point. Why do you think this man is the Uchiha Teiyu? The Uchiha Sharingan is extremely valuable, and there are very few of them left. The one who can control the 9 tails must be the Mangekyo Sharingan. The Mangekyo Sharingan can only be opened by the person himself. The person who disappeared without a trace, including the Sharingan of his right eye. There is only one. That is, Uchiha Obito. Kawasaki stared at Kakashi, his expression changing from horror to despair. That's not right, Obito only had 2 Magatama at that time, and only one eye was left. Kakashi suddenly remembered that Obito only had 2 Magatama before his death, and gave him one of his eyes. Kawasaki grinned. Hey, this is his biggest flaw. When I went to find Tsunade before, I had a fight with him in the Land of Water. The Morino Ibiki team sent to the Land of Water by the third generation several years ago failed in their mission. They were blocked on the way. Not only did they lose the important documents in their hands, but also the people they were supposed to protect were kidnapped. Later, the insider in the Land of Water suddenly lost contact, and the internal struggle in the Land of Water became more and more intense. Morino Ibiki and his team had to withdraw first. Later, the third Hokage received some scattered news. It said that the 4th Mizukage Yagura was controlled and killed, and it was hard to tell whether it was true or false. But it was mentioned that Uchiha Kawasaki had appeared in that area and had a fight with someone. Why did Obito go to the Land of Water? Why did he fight with Kawasaki? The third generation took a puff of cigarette, frowned and asked, You went to find Tsunade, went to the Land of Water, and fought with Obito 28? Kawasaki spread his hands, looking helpless. I don't know, Tsunade was not there, but when I got there, I found that their 4th Mizukage was controlled by Obito with illusion. This method is the same as the Nine Tails Rebellion, so I wonder if he is the mastermind behind the Nine Tails incident. The third generation did not investigate the reason why Kawasaki went to the Water Country. What could be more shocking than the Mizukage of Mist Shinobi being controlled by illusion and turned into a puppet? You know, the 4th Mizukage Yagura is a perfect Jinchuriki. The perfect Jinchuriki became a puppet. What happened to the bloody rule of the Water Country in these years? The third generation couldn't help but click in their hearts. Is Mangekyo's illusion so powerful? With these questions circling in his mind, he also wanted to know the identity of that person, whether it was really Obito. You haven't told me yet, what is his biggest flaw? The third generation couldn't help asking. Kawasaki rolled his eyes. Why are you in such a hurry? I was just about to say it. Seeing Kawasaki's hesitation, the third generation almost had a brain hemorrhage. I don't know how the double Magatama evolved into Mangekyo Sharingan, but the eye that was exposed was Obito's right eye. The one that was covered happened to be the left eye. Isn't this too coincidental? Konaha Village. Hokage's office. Because I fought with him, I found out that he knew space-time ninjutsu, but he couldn't perform Susanoo at all, and his eye technique was at the Mangekyo level. Space-time ninjutsu. The third generation just heard Kakashi's report that the masked man can use space-time ninjutsu, which is very difficult to learn. It seems that the person Kawasaki encountered should be the same person as Kakashi. Kawasaki guessed that Kakashi had fought with Obito and must know that Dai could use space-time ninjutsu. The third generation asked in confusion, what happened to Susanoo if she can't? Kawasaki looked up at Anbu opposite. Anbu cleverly left the room and closed the door. This is the secret of our Uchiha Mangekyo Sharingan. To open Susanoo with Mangekyo Sharingan, both eyes must be available. The clues in the third generation's mind gradually pieced together. You mean? Kawasaki nodded. Yes, Uchiha people must use their own eyes to open Mangekyo. Among us Uchiha, only Uchiha Darren has lost both his body and eyes. It is impossible for a single-eyed Mangekyo to open Susanoo. Then this person can only be Obito. Kawasaki stared at Kakashi. Kakashi, I don't believe that you can't see the flaws when fighting with Obito, and you still want to hide it for him. Under Kawasaki's questioning, Kakashi finally broke down. It was Obito, I saw his face. Kawasaki was also surprised. He didn't expect Daishi to show up this time? In fact, what Kawasaki said was based on the premise that only Fugaku in the clan has Mangekyo. The logic is not impeccable, but it is enough to make Kakashi's psychological defense collapse. After all, Kakashi doesn't know a lot of information, even his own left eye has evolved into Mangekyo. Kawasaki pretended to be angry. Why didn't you say anything when you saw the face? Kakashi stammered. I thought it was an illusion. Advertisement Kawasaki didn't accept this excuse. His face darkened. Who are you fooling? An elite Jonin can't tell the difference between illusion and reality. You want to protect Obito. Speak. Kakashi was silent and couldn't speak for a long time. The third generation could understand Kakashi's feelings. After all, Kakashi's depression in recent years has a lot to do with Obito's death. However, the third generation still didn't understand why Uchiha Obito did those things. Why did Obito do that? The third generation couldn't help asking. Kawasaki snorted. Obito was silly when he was a child, sunny and cheerful, and was known as the least Uchiha like Uchiha. Although he and I are in different classes, we are in the same grade and have met him several times. He always looks nonchalant when facing difficulties. Besides, the fourth Hokage and his wife are also his master and master's wife. I think Kakashi may know why he did this. Kawasaki kicked the question to Kakashi. Kakashi has the most say on why Obito did this. This is also what Kakashi must face. The third generation and Kawasaki stared at Kakashi, and the atmosphere in the office was heavy for a while. Kakashi could no longer remain silent. His face changed several times, and tears appeared in his one eye. It's Lin. It must be Lin. Kakashi was in great pain, and the bandage on the injured left eye was soaked with light red tears. He is taking revenge on the master, and taking revenge on Konaha. Lin? The third generation still remembered the medical ninja in Minato's class? He was gentle and kind, and had a broad mind. He also died shortly after the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. In the end, only Kakashi was left in Minato's class. Obito loves Lin to the bone, but Lin sacrificed herself, died on the battlefield, by my own hands. He hated the master for not saving him in time. Kakashi cried and muttered to himself, not knowing whether he was talking to himself or explaining to the two. The third generation had a headache after hearing this. What kind of logic is this? Kakashi made a detailed report on why Lin died at Kakashi's hands. Nohara Lin chose to sacrifice herself to avoid the Three Tails destroying Konaha. What does this have to do with the fourth Hokage? The third generation naturally felt that the logic was not right, because Obito thought he had the truth. The fundamental reason why Obito took revenge on Konaha was that he was desperate for this world, and no one could stop him, let alone the fourth generation. Although it was somewhat different from Kakashi's guess, it was also closely related. Kawasaki watched with a cold face, while Kakashi was confiding in pain. That day he took off the mask. It was Obito's face, but I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself that it was an illusion. He was not. Bang. Kakashi's words were interrupted by a loud noise. Kawasaki looked gloomy, and slapped the solid wood table in the third Hokage's office. Leaving a clear palm print, his anger was obvious. I thought I had guessed Obito's identity, and he had suffered a great injustice, so he would take revenge like this, but the reason turned out to be so despicable and shameless. Kakashi was about to speak. Although he took revenge on the village, he did not target the Uchiha clan. Kawasaki heard Kakashi subconsciously want to defend Obito. He suddenly grabbed Kakashi's collar and lifted him up, and his roar made Kakashi's ears buzz. Are you confused? Whether he took revenge on you, the fourth Hokage, or the whole village? This is not a reason to blame our Uchiha family. We Uchiha have never owed him anything. He used the Sharingan to control 9 tails, and did all this to smear our Uchiha. You know how many misunderstandings have Uchiha carried? Do you know how much suspicion we have endured? Do you know how much grievance we have swallowed? Do you know how much we have suffered? Bullshit love-brained people are hopeless. The villagers died in vain. The fourth Hokage died in vain. You still speak for Obito, Kakashi. Minato treats you well. Is Kushina not good to you? What a ruthless person. Kawasaki threw Kakashi to the ground fiercely. Kakashi fell to the ground, and the pain on his body was far less than the pain in his heart. He looked painful, his thoughts were confused, and he couldn't get up for a long time. Kawasaki turned his head and exhaled, with anger on his face. Third generation, today's matter will never end here. Tomorrow the Uchiha clan will issue a statement to reveal the fact that the masked man is Uchiha Obito. I hope the third generation can also jointly issue a statement to disclose the actions of our Uchiha clan on the night of 9 tails and clear our name. Konaha village, Hokage's office. Humph! Kawasaki snorted angrily, and without waiting for the third generation to respond, he kicked the door open and strode away. Advertisement. The Anbu members outside the door looked at each other and looked at the third Hokage, who shook his head helplessly. What else can the third Hokage say now? It was previously discovered that 9 tails was manipulated by the Sharingan, so the Uchiha clan was more vigilant. That night, Uchiha was responsible for the evacuation of the villagers, but rumors spread that Uchiha stood idly by, and implied that the 9 tails riot was inseparable from Uchiha. Uchiha was already not well received for its security duties. In the days that followed, the conflicts between the villagers who did not know the truth and him intensified. If Kawasaki had not intervened, the Uchiha clan would probably have been destroyed long ago. All of these are closely related to the high-level commotion. Kawasaki did not demolish the office, which was considered a mercy. Whether the third Hokage agreed or not was no longer important. The key was that Uchiha would definitely make Obito's identity public. A storm was about to sweep across Konoha and even the entire ninja world. The third generation looked at the distraught Kakashi and snorted coldly. Bawako also died in the Nine Tails Rebellion, and he had no intention of sympathizing with him. Kakashi could not be taken care of now. Send Kakashi back to the hospital, and bring Shimura Danzo, Udatane Kaharu, and Midokado Homura. Yes. Kawasaki's face quickly returned to normal after leaving Konoha. That's right, his anger was just a disguise. He knew Obito's character and revenge motives, but he didn't want to explain. It didn't matter whether it was clarified or not, because Uchiha had already broken with Konoha. But to support Orochimaru to become Hokage, the first task was to weaken the prestige of Konoha's high-level officials. Uchiha had been excluded for a long time, and the situation worsened after the Nine Tails Rebellion. At that time, some Uchiha tribe members asked Fugaku to allow them to fight against Nine Tails. But Fugaku stopped them on the grounds that the police department needed to protect non-combatants and obey the village's orders. Uchiha's strong combat power is well known, and Konoha's high-level officials are particularly aware of this, but they are unwilling to use it in battle at critical moments. Just because they are afraid of Uchiha's power, Sharingan can control the tailed beasts, and Madara's example is well known to everyone. Therefore, Uchiha was suspected first. If the Nine Tails were controlled by the Uchiha, their power would surely become even stronger and pose a threat to the village. The Nine Tails incident was triggered by Obito, but at that time only Minato, Kushina and the baby Naruto knew about the existence of the masked man in the village. Minato and his wife died before they could tell the third generation, and Naruto was unable to speak after he was born. In addition, the seal weakened during Jinchuriki's childbirth, and Kushina kept the birth information secret. And she chose a location far away from the center of the village, but the Nine Tails appeared in the center after escaping, which was obviously controlled. Because the relevant records were lost, Uchiha became the biggest suspect and was believed to be able to summon the Nine Tails and control it with the Sharingan. In fact, this was limited to the Uchiha clan members who possessed the Mangekyō Sharingan. At that time, only Fugaku had Mangekyo in Konoha. Even so, the top leaders might still speculate whether there was a second Mangekyo. Therefore, the top leaders, led by Danzo, restricted the Uchiha from participating in the front line during the Nine Tails incident and kept them in the rear. Fugaku understood the difficulties and had to obey to eliminate suspicion. However, after the Nine Tails incident, Danzo actually proposed to move the police department to a remote corner and built a high tower around Uchiha for surveillance, which caused strong dissatisfaction among Uchiha. Danzo also spread rumors that were unfavorable to Uchiha, which led to a sharp escalation of conflicts between the villagers and Uchiha, and sowed the seeds of Uchiha's rebellion in the future. Soon, Danzo, Udatane Kaharu and Midokado Homura all arrived at the Hokage's office. Midokado Homura looked a little tired. The old man finally fell asleep but was awakened by Anbu, and he is still dozing off. Although Danzo and Udatane Kaharu did not fall asleep, they were also unhappy when they were summoned late at night. Although Danzo was only an honorary elder, he was the most active one in suppressing Uchiha. The proposal came from him, so he had to be invited to the scene. Everyone understood that this late-night summons must be something big. Seeing everyone gathered, the third generation threw a stun bomb. The real culprit of the Nine Tails Rebellion has been found. What? Midokado Homura suddenly woke up. Who is it? Udatane Kaharu asked anxiously. Danzo's face was gloomy. It must be someone from the Uchiha clan. The third generation glanced at Danzo and nodded slightly. It is indeed from the Uchiha clan. Humph. What did I say? The Uchiha family has no good intentions, we should eradicate them as soon as possible. Danzo interrupted the third generation impatiently, and a hint of pride flashed across his face. Sure enough, targeting the Uchiha is always right. Ahem. The third generation deliberately cleared their throat. I haven't finished talking yet. Although he is from the Uchiha family, he has nothing to do with the Uchiha in the village. That person is Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito. The three were shocked. Wasn't Obito already dead? Then, the third Hokage told Kawasaki's reasoning. Kakashi was attacked and recognized Obito's true identity, and why Obito caused the Nine Tails Rebellion. Chapter 94 Kawasaki's Enlightenment, Mangekyo. The secret of blindness, isn't this invincible? Midokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu looked at each other, and there was only one word in their minds, ridiculous. If it was really because of this reason, then Obito's thinking was too weird. But the reason is no longer important. The key is to confirm that this person is Uchiha Obito. Danzo looked as if he had expected it. Uchiha itself is a problematic clan. Isn't it natural for a clan member to become like this? Obito is definitely not the last one. The third generation sighed. Now is not the time to discuss this. What we need to consider now is whether the village should announce the action plan of Uchiha on the night of Nine Tails. Midokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu were silent. Their master was Senju Tobarama. Tobarama's views on Uchiha have invisibly influenced them, but they don't have Tobarama's foresight. Therefore, during the Nine Tails Rebellion, Danzo proposed to guard against Uchiha, and the two immediately agreed. It is impossible to publicly slap yourself in the face now. Danzo smiled grimly. Now that Uchiha has left the village, why should we speak for them? Third generation frowned. But Kawasaki said they would issue a statement. Danzo said indifferently. It's useless for Uchiha to issue a statement. As long as we don't admit it, they have no actual evidence. Kawasaki's reasoning is just his one-sided statement, even if there is a handwritten letter from Tsunade. Who knows whether their tribe has other Mangekyō Sharingan hidden? Danzo never misses any opportunity to attack Uchiha. Want to clear the stigma on your body? Don't even think about it? Sarutobi took a puff of cigarette, but Kakashi has seen Obito's true face. Mentioning this, Danzo was so angry that his teeth itched. Kakashi, that waste, was gouged out without even a warning. Such precious eyes should have been mine. Danzo snorted coldly. Just give Kakashi a secret order. The third generation turned to look at Mitokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu, asking for their opinions. Mitokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu didn't want to make trouble, so they kept silent, which was considered as tacit agreement to Danzo's proposal. The four of them have been together for many years, and Sarutobi knew their decision as soon as he saw their expressions. Sighing, thinking of the current strength of Uchiha, Sarutobi nodded. Okay, I get it, I will give Kakashi a gag order. Sarutobi dismissed everyone and stood by the window smoking alone. Uchiha Kawasaki is back. This time Konaha intends to delay. How will you, Kawasaki, respond? Sarutobi had foreseen that Danzo and others would disagree with the proposal. He just communicated with Hiruzen. The most important thing was to see how Kawasaki would respond next. Uchiha territory. It was very late when Kawasaki returned to Uchiha. He didn't want to disturb Fugaku's rest. He planned to talk to him the next day. As a result, Kiming waited for him all the time. Why are you waiting for me so late? Kawasaki looked at the young boy in front of him. He didn't expect that he had the talent to open Mangekyo. Kiming scratched his head. Captain, I can't sleep without you coming back. Kawasaki smiled and punched him. It's none of my business. Kiming whispered. I want to ask about eyes. Seeing that Kiming didn't want to wait for a moment, Kawasaki was a little surprised, but nodded and agreed, letting Kiming follow him into the room. After sitting down, Kawasaki said to Kiming, go ahead. Kiming asked Kawasaki, Captain, the clan leader said that my Mangekyo is very useful. I am very happy that the family needs me, but the clan leader Fugaku said that the power of Mangekyo Sharingan is limited. Excessive use will damage eyesight and eventually lead to blindness. I want to ask, will Mangekyo Sharingan really heal Ming in the end? Kawasaki raised his eyebrows, not expecting Fugaku to kick this ball to himself. Didn't tell Kiming that there were other ways to let him guide? Or did Fugaku not expect that Kiming was so worried when he just started? Kawasaki nodded. Mangekyo will indeed lose its sight in the end. Fugaku is already blind. Kiming listened, his face was mixed with surprise and disappointment. Even the Fugaku clan leader was blind, so he might have to go blind in the future. It's a pity, I still want to use Mangekyo to do more for the family. Kawasaki chuckled, he really didn't realize that Kiming was such a person who loved his family. The Uchiha clan tends to be extreme, but Kiming is a rare Uchiha who is full of love, and this love is for the family. How did you open it? Kawasaki asked. Kiming put away his disappointment, since he was going to go blind, it would be good to make some contributions to the family before you went blind. I heard that the captain is also a Mangekyo master, it's right to ask the captain for advice. Then, Kiming described in detail how he opened his eyes. Kawasaki narrowed his eyes after listening. Kiming's emotion of opening Mangekyo should be the emotion of wanting to protect the family. Kawasaki opened the faction panel, which recorded Kiming's Mangekyo information. God Guard. Grants soul and level protection, stabilizes the mind, and is immune to soul-type attacks. Absolution. Completely locks onto the target. Kiming has already demonstrated the first ability, saving Fugaku's life. Kawasaki still has questions about the second ability, as the introduction on the panel is too brief. Advertisement for details, you have to ask Kiming himself. Kiming, tell me about your Mangekyo eye technique ability. Kiming nodded and introduced the two eye techniques. When it comes to the second one, I can lock on to the target. What does this lock mean? Kiming thought for a while. It means that after locking, you will not be hurt or feel tired. Good man, isn't this invincible? Saved in the light? Kawasaki was immediately excited. After asking in detail, he realized that this eye technique was indeed powerful. But it consumes a huge amount of eye power. Chi Ming has just opened his eyes, and his eye power is top-notch among ordinary Mangekyo. But it can only last for about 20 seconds, and then he will be completely blind. The shortest duration of the pardon is 1 second, equivalent to being immune to Earth 10 attacks. But it must be activated consciously. This skill is a magical skill if used well, but it is quite eye-consuming. Kawasaki is quite familiar with Chi Ming. To be honest, he is not the type of Uchiha who is keen on fighting. And his awakened Mangekyo Sharingan is too precious, it would be a waste to use it directly in battle. Kawasaki intends to let Chi Ming withdraw from the front line, and even wants to send him to Orochimaru. See if Kiming's ability can help the experiment, but this matter needs to be asked King's opinion first. King, I am considering withdrawing you from the front line and transferring you to civilian work. What do you think? Civilian work? King was a little confused. Uchiha has civilian work? Kawasaki realized that he had let slip when he heard King's question. There is no civilian work in Chenlibo. He simply changed the way he said it. King, your eyes are too precious. It's a pity to use them in combat. I hope to use your ability in more important places. King breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. No problem, Captain, I can do anything to contribute to the family. Kawasaki looked at this simple boy and was moved. Uchiha is really a wonderful tribe. The outside world always says that Uchiha people regard strength as everything. But this is not the case. No family has deeper emotions than Uchiha, so Uchiha chooses to seal emotions. Once the Uchiha learn to love, their long-suppressed emotions will be released, and they may even inspire a love power that exceeds that of the Senju. However, too strong love hides the danger of losing control. Once the Uchiha who understand love loses this deep love, love will be replaced by more turbulent hatred, and the so-called Sharingan, which is synchronized with the heart power, can make people stronger quickly. As the hatred in their hearts intensifies, the Uchiha people are generally delicate. People who awaken strongly in emotions are mostly swallowed by darkness and go astray. The deeper the darkness, the stronger the pupil power, and the more difficult it is to deal with. Madara is an example. However, where there is darkness, there is light, although there is an extreme dark side. There are also people with great love in the Uchiha clan, such as Uchiha Yuri, the founder of Izanami, and Uchiha Kagami. Although Shisui was influenced by the will of fire at the beginning, he is indeed a peace-loving person in essence. Now there is a new Mangekyo in the family, but this Mangekyo awakened to protect the family. Kawasaki patted King on the shoulder. Your Susanoo has awakened, right? King nodded. The clan leader said that the pupil power is limited, and I have never used it much. Kawasaki said with appreciation. You are right, Susanoo consumes a lot of pupil power and chakra. Chakra can be restored, but the upper limit of pupil power will be reduced every time it is used. You will be out of combat duty from now on. You can still lead the barrier squad, but you cannot go into battle in person if you find the enemy. You are Uchiha's treasure now. Chi Ming didn't have much idea about fighting, and he didn't feel lost if he was not allowed to fight. On the contrary, he felt honored and happy to contribute to the family. It was getting late. Kawasaki simply told Chi Ming to leave. He also had to sleep, and there were many group matters waiting to be dealt with tomorrow. The next day, in the Uchiha territory, although he didn't sleep for long, Kawasaki, who had the physique of Uzumaki, woke up energetically. After washing up, he ran to Fugaku's house. Kawasaki naturally didn't need to report, and when he went in, Fugaku was being served breakfast by Makoto. Makoto put food in Fugaku's bowl, and Fugaku ate it by groping, looking like an ordinary person. In the blind state, this performance is already good. Izzy. Kawasaki deliberately coughed twice. Makoto looked up and smiled. Kawasaki, you are here, have you eaten? Kawasaki patted his belly without hesitation and said, Not yet, Sister Makoto, I just came here to eat. Makoto chuckled. Then you talk to Fugaku first, there are dishes in the kitchen. Kawasaki nodded and walked in, sitting opposite Fugaku. Have you encountered any difficulties in life after blindness? Fugaku shook his head. It is a little inconvenient, but they are all small things. At this time, Makoto had already brought the meal, a bowl of white porridge with 2 dishes of side dishes. Although there are chefs and servants in the tribe, Makoto is not used to being served, so she does all these things by herself. Kawasaki picked up the bowl and slurped it, saying indistinctly, Thank you, Sister Makoto. Makoto smiled, tidied up the things in front of Fugaku, and prepared to leave. Advertisement Kawasaki had put down the bowl, and the bowl was clean. Don't worry about getting burned if you drink so fast. Makoto scolded. Kawasaki laughed, I'm tough, I'll be fine. Knowing that Kawasaki and Fugaku had something to talk about, Makoto packed up and went downstairs. Kawasaki wiped his mouth. Fugaku, it was Obito who took away Kakashi's eyes when he was attacked before, and Kakashi also saw his face. Fugaku nodded, and the only one who wanted Kakashi's eyes was Obito. But Kakashi actually saw the other's face, which surprised Fugaku. He and Obito fought so fiercely that day, and Obito's mask was always on. It was like it was welded to his face, but Kakashi didn't expect to see Obito's face first. What are you going to do? Although Fugaku is still the head of the clan, Kawasaki has more ideas on this matter. Kawasaki said, I plan to make Obito's identity public, so that he won't let Uchiha take the blame again. I have already requested Konaha to announce the arrangements for our Uchiha on Nine Tails Night. Fugaku frowned upon hearing this. Will the third generation cooperate? Kawasaki chuckled and said, How is it possible? Danzo, that old man, has returned to the position of honorary elder. He has started to collude with the main Hokage again. Danzo's malice towards us Uchiha is still there, how can he cooperate with us? Fugaku listened to Kawasaki's words and smiled. Just be prepared. Kawasaki always has a backup plan when doing things, unlike him. I plan to take advantage of the opportunity to take over. Kawasaki then told Fugaku his plan in detail, and Fugaku nodded repeatedly after listening. Then just go ahead and do it. Anyway, you will take over many affairs of the tribe soon. Don't worry about the dispatch of the tribe members, leave it to me. Hyuga Hisashi had just learned that Kawasaki had returned to the village in the middle of the night. The next day, he received an invitation from Kawasaki, asking him to come and talk. Hisashi came immediately after receiving the invitation. Kawasaki saw Hisashi coming and hurried out to greet him. I'm sorry, Hisashi, there are so many things in the clan, and I have to trouble you to come all the way. Hisashi was very nervous when he came, but he was relieved to see that Kawasaki was still the same. When the two sat down, Kawasaki said directly, I'm busy, so I'll get straight to the point. I need your help with some things. Once you're done, we Uchiha will let go of the things about Hyuga Kato, the fourth elder of the Hyuga family. Kawasaki's straightforwardness made Hisashi secretly relieved. After all, it's a knife anyway. If this matter is not resolved, he will always be worried about it, and the clan will always be uneasy. Kawasaki, you go ahead. Kawasaki's first words shocked Hisashi. Fugaku is seriously injured and may have to abdicate soon. I will take over as the head of Uchiha. Is Fugaku so seriously injured? The last time I saw Fugaku, he was fine and asked him to take care of the empty shop on Hachime. I heard earlier that someone attacked Uchiha, but I didn't hear that Fugaku was seriously injured. For a family as big as Uchiha, it is a big deal to change the head. Not only does the whole family have to participate, but they also have to entertain all parties and inform all major forces. Each head has a different way of doing things, and the handling of external relations may not be the same as before. The head of Uchiha is not hereditary, and Kawasaki and Fugaku have very different styles of doing things. Now if Kawasaki wants to do something, he still has to discuss it with Fugaku. In the future, he can make the final decision himself. The head of the family abdicates unless he is killed in battle or seriously injured and unable to handle government affairs. At Fugaku's age, he can work for another 30 years. It seems that either Fugaku trusts Kawasaki extremely, or Fugaku is in a bad situation. Hisashi had thousands of thoughts in his mind. After all, he has a good relationship with Fugaku. His first reaction was, is Fugaku no longer able to do it? Kawasaki was stunned for a moment. What did this mean? Who told you that? Hisashi asked in confusion. Otherwise, how could he abdicate? Kawasaki smiled bitterly. Fugaku is in his prime, that's true. But Fugaku insisted on handing over the position of clan leader to me, and I can't do anything about it. Fugaku won't die, he just doesn't want to do it anymore. Hisashi's mouth twitched. What does it mean to not want to do it anymore? If he can sit on the main seat of the main family, he will wake up with a smile in his sleep. Fugaku has no desire for power. In the past, because he was not in harmony with the village, he was also the volunteer of the clan. Now that someone can lead Uchiha to a brighter future, why should he cling to the position of clan leader? From Kawasaki's decision to withdraw a large number of Uchiha from the guard to now completely leaving Konaha. Every decision made by Kawasaki has really strengthened the Uchiha. After a deep discussion last night, Fugaku felt that he was far behind Kawasaki in politics, and wanted to hand over the position of clan leader to Kawasaki as soon as possible. Regardless of the struggle with the third generation, the current Uchiha clan members have the system of Otogakure if they want to take the mission, and do business if they don't want to take it. There are also large subsidies for raising children at home, and life is so beautiful. All this is Kawasaki's credit. If such a person doesn't become the clan leader, who else can be? Chapter 95 Shocking Konaha. Kawasaki digs up graves. Nine Tails Rebellion. In the Uchiha territory, since Fugaku is still alive, Hisashi stopped asking. Kawasaki continued. This is the first piece of news. What about the second piece of news? Kakashi was attacked and his left eye was taken out. You know that, right? Hisashi nodded. He knew it, after all, he was in charge of the security team. For this reason, the third generation also asked Hyuga to change the village's defense detection barrier, and Hisashi was busy for several days. Once the frequency and coverage of the defense detection barrier change, even if the opponent has space ninjutsu, it can be quickly discovered. However, the third Hokage did not disclose the identity of the attacker. The one who attacked Kakashi is the same person behind the Nine Tails Rebellion. What? Hisashi was also surprised. The Nine Tails Rebellion caused Konaha to suffer heavy losses. The Hyuga clan also participated in the war and lost many good players. After that, Uchiha was forced to move to the edge of Konaha, and the power structure of Konaha changed dramatically. That man is a traitor to our Uchiha, called Uchiha Obito. Then, Kawasaki told all kinds of information about Obito, and how Kakashi had revealed his true identity. Hisashi immediately grasped the key. So, the Uchiha clan. Kawasaki nodded. Yes, Uchiha has been blamed for all these years. I plan to disclose Obito's identity, as well as the village's arrangements for Uchiha on the night of Nine Tails. Danzo, that traitor, will never help Uchiha, and now we need the help of the Hyuga clan. Hisashi thought about it, and then agreed. I agree to this. Kawasaki shook his head. You have to go back and ask Hisashi about this matter. Although he will definitely agree, you can't agree directly now. Hisashi paused for a moment, realizing that Kawasaki was thinking about himself. Okay, I understand. I will let Keeming contact you about the specific operation process. He will tell you what the Hyuga clan should do. In addition, I will take some Uchiha members to the memorial today, and the guards will need their cooperation. Hisashi nodded, slightly confused. What are you going to do? Kawasaki narrowed his eyes, flashing a dangerous light, digging graves. It was past noon, and the Konaha bulletin board was still not updated. As Kawasaki expected, the Konaha high-level officials were unwilling to admit their mistakes. Kawasaki was not annoyed, as he expected it. He took a few Uchiha members and went straight to the memorial. The memorial is often guarded by Anbu, so as soon as Kawasaki arrived, the news was passed to the third Hokage. Konaha Village, Memorial. Many people who came to worship were stopped by the Hyuga guards, saying that it was under repair and would not be open until 2 hours later. The villagers were puzzled. The memorial was just a big stone with a grave underneath. Why didn't the repairman go in 25 hours? But it didn't take long, so the villagers didn't mind it and planned to come back later. Kawasaki and his party had been inside for a while. At this time, the third Hokage arrived with the Anbu. What are you doing here? Seeing that the Hyuga guards had set up barriers outside the memorial to prevent the villagers from entering. The leader, Hyuga Yuto, saluted and said, "Report to the Hokage, Uchiha Kawasaki brought his tribe to the memorial today and said he wanted to move the graves. We were afraid that the Uchiha would clash with the villagers, so we prohibited the villagers from entering." The third generation raised their eyebrows. Move the graves? What graves to move? The memorial is engraved with those who have made contributions to Konaha, and the same is true for those buried below. The remains of the successive cages are also placed here. The Anbu personnel guarding here are now blocked outside. The Uchiha family and the Hyuga family are guarding together, and no one can get in. What is Kawasaki trying to do? As soon as the third Hokage arrived, he led his people in. The Hyuga family did not dare to stop them and lifted the blockade. The third Hokage went in and saw the fourth Kawasaki standing there with his hands in his pockets. The grave in front of him was in a mess, the tombstone was broken into pieces, and the coffin was dug out. The third generation was furious. "Kawasaki, what are you doing?" Kawasaki saw the third generation was angry, and greeted him indifferently. "Hey, isn't this the third generation? What's the matter? I'm here to move the grave of our Uchiha hero, is there a problem?" The third Hokage came closer and recognized that the grave was that of Uchiha Obito. At first, everyone thought Obito had died, and since they couldn't find his body, they built a cenotaph for him, and Konaha buried him according to the hero's etiquette. Unexpectedly, Kawasaki actually dug up this cenotaph. Seeing that it was not someone else's grave, the third generation's anger subsided a little. "Kawasaki, what's the point of doing this?" Kawasaki didn't answer directly. "I didn't see the arrangement of Nine Tails Knight Uchiha on the Konaha bulletin board today." Third generation snorted coldly. "It takes too long, it needs to be verified, it can't be wrong, it takes time." Kawasaki looked at Hokage expressionlessly, and then turned his head directly, as if saying one more word would be redundant. The third generation was a little annoyed when they saw Kawasaki being so rude. "Uchiha Kawasaki, answer me, what's the point of digging the grave?" Kawasaki shrugged indifferently and said, "It doesn't make any sense, it's just to vent my anger." The third generation didn't expect Kawasaki to answer like this, and they were stunned for a moment. Anbu next to him was also stunned. Kawasaki made such a big fuss just to vent his anger? Konaha is unwilling to admit that it is your business. We Uchiha want to move the hero's tomb back to the clan land. It seems that we don't need your consent? Or, third generation still wants Obito's tomb to remain here? Kawasaki said slowly. The third generation's chest rose and fell a few times, and ordered Anbu next to him, "Go call Kakashi over and tell him that Kawasaki dug Obito's tomb." Quote. The third generation stared at Kawasaki coldly. "Kawasaki, you'd better not play any tricks." Kawasaki yawned. "I'm not that idle, I'll leave after I finish digging. Instead of paying attention to me digging a criminal's cenotaph, it would be better to announce the truth of Nine Tails Knight as soon as possible and admit your mistakes. This would be better." Before, the third generation was still wondering what Kawasaki was going to do if they didn't make it public, but Kawasaki came to dig the grave. The third generation was afraid that Kawasaki might have other ideas, so they asked Kakashi to come and see. As long as Kawasaki didn't dig other people's graves, let him do whatever he wants. Let's see what other tricks Kawasaki has. Advertisement. Anbu reported that Kakashi had arrived. The third generation snorted and didn't say hello to Kawasaki, turned around and left. At the memorial in Konaha village, Kakashi was in the hospital. He suddenly jumped up after receiving the news from Anbu. He reacted so strongly because there was not only Obito's cenotaph at the memorial, but also Nohara Rin's grave. What he was worried about was Nohara Rin's grave. When Kakashi went in, the third generation had already left. Only Uchiha Kawasaki was left standing there. Kakashi's eyes passed Kawasaki, and behind him was Obito's cenotaph. Obito's cenotaph has been completely opened, and the tombstone has been broken into pieces. "Hey, isn't this the hard-hearted Kakashi?" Kawasaki saw Kakashi coming and hurriedly greeted him. Kakashi was so focused on the grave that he ignored Kawasaki's teasing. "Kawasaki, are you here just to dig up Obito's cenotaph?" In response to Kakashi's questioning, Kawasaki waved his hands. I'm not that naive. Obito is not dead. What's the point of digging a cenotaph? Kakashi didn't expect Kawasaki to answer like this, and was stunned. You? Kawasaki clapped his hands. Didn't Obito cause the Nine Tails Rebellion because of Nohara Rin? I'll dig up Nohara Rin's grave right now. Kakashi was furious. Kawasaki, you dare, Lord Kawasaki, it's already been taken out. The voice came. Kakashi turned around, and saw the Uchiha people carrying a coffin coming over. Kakashi's only remaining eye instantly turned red. Not far away, Nohara Rin's grave had been dug out to form a neat courtyard. Needless to say, the Uchiha people were holding Nohara Rin's coffin. Kawasaki. Let go of Lin. Kakashi roared and rushed towards several Uchiha people. Kawasaki waved his hand, and several Uchiha people put Nohara Rin steadily on the ground. Before Kakashi rushed over, they quickly dodged to the basket. Kakashi nervously ran to Nohara Rin's coffin, fearing that there would be any damage. As a result, Nohara Rin's coffin was intact, and even the pit that was dug was neat and tidy. It was obvious that it was carefully cut open and moved out using ninjutsu. Kakashi's anger was suddenly suppressed. Are you stupid? Do you really think I'm taking it out on an innocent girl? Don't forget, we were classmates. Kawasaki looked at Kakashi and shook his head. You're stupid, and you're really stupid. Kakashi turned his head, a little confused about Kawasaki's intention. Kawasaki, you? Kawasaki shook his head. Since we Uchiha are going to make Obito's information public, then the victims of the Nine Tails Rebellion will all be counted on Obito, right? Someone in the family has died. Do you think they will come to dig up Nohara Rin's grave? Kakashi was suddenly shocked. The attitude of the villagers towards Nine Tails Jinchuriki Naruto can be seen. How much pain the Nine Tails Rebellion brought to everyone. If Obito is revealed to be the culprit of the Nine Tails Rebellion, Nohara Rin may be implicated. Obito is a big shot in school, and it's no secret that he likes Nohara Rin. Even if Obito doesn't take revenge on Konaha because of Rin's grave may be implicated. Kakashi didn't dare to bet that all the villagers could be rational. Seeing that Kakashi seemed to understand, Kawasaki walked up and patted Kakashi on the shoulder. I, Kawasaki, don't like to implicate innocent people. I'll give you Nohara Rin's coffin. Find a hidden place to bury it. For a moment, Kakashi felt that Kawasaki was not a bad person. Several Uchiha people destroyed Obito's tombstone. The things in the cenotaph were burned to ashes with fire style. Kawasaki was about to leave, but he turned back and ran to the memorial to the dead. Sure enough, Obito's name was still engraved there. Kawasaki waved his hand, and the Uchiha next to him handed him a knife. Kawasaki drew out the knife and swiped it twice. Obito's name was erased. Kawasaki nodded, turned around and left, without looking back at Kakashi. Kakashi stood there in a daze, staring at Lin's coffin. Tick tick tick, many raindrops suddenly fell from the sky, hitting the soil and also hitting Kakashi's heart. Walking from the memorial, Kawasaki asked his fellow tribesman beside him, "Did you get the things?" The fellow tribesman replied, "We got them all." Kawasaki nodded gently. "Let's go." In Konaha village. Today, the Uchiha family appeared in front of various bulletin boards. They posted a striking notice. The Uchiha tribe rarely showed up in the village, which aroused the curiosity of the villagers, and they gathered together. Advertisement: the chieftain Uchiha Fugaku stepped down. In a month, Uchiha Kawasaki will take over as the new chieftain. The Uchiha family will hold a grand celebration and invite all villages to participate in the ceremony. All stores in the snack street will be 10% off for 3 days, share the joy. The villagers were in an uproar. The Uchiha family was actually going to change the chieftain? And they had to hold such a grand celebration? The snack street is 10% off, isn't this equivalent to giving it away for free? Other villagers continued to read on. It has been found that the mastermind behind the Nine Tails riot is Uchiha Obito, who disappeared many years ago and was revered as a hero. This man hated Konaha because of the loss of his beloved, and planned the Nine Tails riot, resulting in countless deaths and injuries. He killed his own teacher and mistress, which is really crazy and inhumane. Recently, they attacked the Uchiha leader again, seriously injuring the Fugaku leader and causing heavy losses within the clan. The Uchiha clan has unanimously decided to remove Uchiha Obito from the clan tree, and to hunt him down forever and offer a bounty. Anyone who can kill Obito can go to the Uchiha clan to claim a bounty of 300 million with his head. This statement is valid for a long time. If the previous news surprised everyone, then the following part is undoubtedly a bombshell. Is Obito the mastermind behind the Nine Tails riot? During the Nine Tails riot, Konaha suffered heavy casualties, including the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato and his wife, the illusion master Yuhi Kurenai, and Iruka's parents. There was also the 3rd Hokage's wife Sarutobi Bawako. Akamichi Tofu was also seriously injured and retired at that time. The casualties of ordinary villagers were countless, and countless family members and friends died on that day. That was the largest casualty in Konaha during the non-war period. Many villagers even thought that the Nine Tails riot was an accident caused by the breaking of the Jinchuriki seal. Many people beat and scolded Naruto because of this. After reading the Uchiha's notice, people realized that the Nine Tails riot was actually planned. Although the notice was everywhere, the crowds gathered in front of each notice board continued to increase. Fortunately, there were members of the Hyuga clan's security team nearby to maintain order, so the situation did not get out of control. In recent years, the Hyuga family has been responsible for security patrols. Some villagers who were familiar with the Hyuga told them all the news about the king. The Hyuga people had already prepared a story. Obito was an orphan since childhood and was raised by Uchiha. Later, he became a disciple of the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato with Kakashi and Nohara Rin. He disappeared after the Battle of Kanabi Bridge and was judged to have died in battle. Later, Mist Shinobi conspired to kill Nohara Rin. Obito loved Nohara Rin deeply, and after learning of her death, he began to take revenge on everyone. He started the Nine Tails riot and killed his teacher, Ko Nyong. The onlookers were stunned. Shouldn't he take revenge on Mist Shinobi? Why did he attack his own village and kill his teacher? He has already taken revenge on Mist Shinobi. He took revenge on Konaha because he thought that even the fastest 4th Hokage in the ninja world couldn't save Nohara Rin, so he took his anger out on the 4th generation. Isn't this just a brain problem? Is this guy a lunatic? The Hyuga tribe member echoed. Who says he isn't? Kawasaki did not reveal the deep reason why Obito started the Nine Tails riot, but only showed Obito's madness. And the words of the Hyuga tribe member successfully diverted the attention of the onlookers. You don't know how much blame the Uchiha family has taken. Nine Tails night, Uchiha clan members were clearly helping non-combatants evacuate. But rumors spread that Uchiha stood aside that night, and many people condemned Uchiha. Some people even spread rumors that the Nine Tails riot was caused by Uchiha clan members in the village. This is too outrageous. Isn't Obito also surnamed Uchiha? How can they be the same? The head of the Uchiha clan was attacked by him, and now he has been expelled from the clan tree. 300 million bounty, my goodness, so much money. Hey, what are you thinking? Uchiha Fugaku is seriously injured, do you still want to get this bounty? The explosive news revealed by Uchiha shocked the entire Konoha, and even the entire ninja world. Unlike ordinary villagers, the ninja clan received more detailed information. The intelligence showed that Obito had a twisted mind, Grandmaster Spacetime Ninjutsu, and was hostile to the entire ninja world. Mist Shinobi has been Obito's men have suffered a great loss. He also used to impersonate Uchiha Madara and swindle people under the banner of Madara. Konoha's major ninja clans received invitations to the celebration, and Kawasaki took over as the clan leader and a large ceremony would be held. Other ninja villages were also invited to watch the ceremony. In contrast, many ninjas paid more attention to the information about the Black Hand behind the Nine Tails riot. Almost all the major ninja clans in Konoha participated in the Nine Tails night, and the losses were light and heavy. It has always been unclear who the murderer is, and Konoha has not found any clues after years of investigation. Now it has been found out by Uchiha. Chapter 96 Kawasaki returns to Konoha, Terumi Mei, Akatsuki, Dust Release, Onoki, Gaara. Obito was not outstanding in the past except that he was Minato's disciple. Later, he disappeared and was considered dead in battle and was forgotten. But he gave his eye to Kakashi before he died. Kakashi became famous with this eye, and only a few people remembered him. Who would have thought that when news about him came again, he was exposed as the mastermind behind the Nine Tails riot? Some people went to the 3rd Hokage for confirmation, while others went directly to Uchiha for confirmation. The 3rd Hokage had anticipated that the exposure of Obito's identity would cause an uproar, and had prepared a response early. He said that everything was still under investigation and no conclusion had been reached. But Uchiha's proposal to change the clan leader surprised the 3rd generation. Uchiha's change of position was originally a trivial matter. But at such a critical moment, Uchiha invited people from other villages to watch the ceremony, which was tantamount to stabbing the 3rd generation in the heart. Now, people from other ninja villages can come to Konoha to collect intelligence openly. And according to the rules, when the chief changes, all Uchiha members should return to the village. This means that the more than 100 elites that Shisui took out will return to the village. This puts pressure on the 3rd generation. The 3rd Hokage even worries that Kawasaki may have other plans. Different from the delaying strategy adopted by Konoha. When the ninja came to verify the authenticity of the news, the Uchiha gave a positive answer and told everyone. The previous attack on Kakashi was also done by Obito, and the purpose was to get his eyes back. Kakashi has completely seen through Obito's identity. If you don't believe it, you can go to Kakashi to verify it. Then, a large group of people took action and searched for Kakashi's traces everywhere. And Kakashi just found a hidden place for Lin to bury her. As soon as he returned to Konoha, groups of people came to him to confirm whether Obito planned the Nine Tails rebellion. Kakashi was bitter in his heart, although all this was indeed out of the eyes of the first king. But he really didn't want to believe that his companion would become such a person. Konoha issued a gag order, so Kakashi simply hid in the base camp of Anbu. But a series of blows made him discouraged and depressed. After losing an eye, Kakashi's strength was greatly hit. His vision was limited, and even when using Reikiri, he couldn't accurately lock the target because of the speed. Although his chakra was no longer as scarce as before, Kakashi almost lost his enthusiasm for fighting. He no longer accepted missions, and no longer went to the memorial to mourn. He just lay in bed every day, immersed in pain, and wandered like a ghost. In Lei's office in Cloud Shinobi Village, Uchiha Kawasaki returned to the village and announced that he would take over as the head of the Uchiha clan in a month. The Uchiha clan sent out invitations to all ninja villages to attend the celebration. The Uchiha clan announced that the culprit of the Nine Tails Rebellion was Uchiha Obito, removed him from the list, and issued a permanent hunting order with a bounty of 300 million. It is particularly emphasized that Obito is good at time-space ninjutsu, often pretends to be Uchiha Madara, and has a deep hatred for the entire ninja world. Kirigakure of the Water Kingdom has suffered revenge. There has been no official news from the Water Kingdom. The official invitation of the Uchiha family will be delivered soon. The capable Mabui reported the latest intelligence collected to the Raikage. Raikage tapped the table. We just sent someone to investigate the whereabouts of Uchiha Kawasaki, and he returned to the village. Isn't it too coincidental? We need to pay close attention to this Obito. People who master time-space ninjutsu are not easy to deal with. At the same time, continue to investigate the movements of the Water Country to find out how Obito will retaliate against the Water Country. Mabui asked while holding the documents. Do we need to send representatives to participate in the Uchiha celebration? Raikage laughed loudly. Of course, isn't this a good opportunity to explore Konaha? As old rivals of Konaha, Cloud Shinobi can take advantage of this Uchiha celebration. Go deep into Konaha to find out the details of the other party and the true relationship between Uchiha and Konaha. Send Samui and the other three to bring gifts, so that people don't say that our Cloud Shinobi don't know etiquette. Iwagakure, the village is surrounded by high mountains and solid rocks, with strong defenses, and it is difficult for foreign enemies to invade. But this also leads to relatively few exchanges with the outside world. Rock Shinobi and Konaha have been tit for tat with each other for many years, and have fought several times in the Ninja World War, and their relationship is bad. Third Tsuchikage Onoki, as a direct disciple of the first generation and second Tsuchikage, is extraordinary. Enjoy the name of 2 Days Scale Onoki, Grandmaster Earth Style. He also mastered the bloodline elimination beyond the bloodline limit. Dust release, its power is needless to say. The most enviable thing is that he can fly, and he is one of the rare ninjas who can fly in the 5 major countries. Under the leadership of Onoki, Rock Shinobi entered its heyday, but failed to compete with Konaha because it had not found a suitable successor. The feud between Rock Shinobi and Konaha began many years ago. When he was young, Onoki went to Konaha with his master, second Tsuchikage, to sign an alliance. They had reached a consensus through negotiation with first Hokage, but Uchiha Madara interfered. Not only did he refuse to form an alliance, he also beat them up. Since then, Rock Shinobi and Konaha have been at odds. Advertisement. In the grass country battlefield of the Third Ninja World War, Rock Shinobi once forced Konaha to retreat repeatedly. If it weren't for Konaha's golden flash Namikaze Minato blowing up the Canopy Bridge and cutting off Rock Shinobi's supply line, the winner of the Third Ninja World War would probably be Rock Shinobi. Onoki's management of Rock Shinobi is extremely conservative, and he seeks stability in everything, so even if Rock Shinobi is strong, he dare not start a war easily. In Rock Shinobi's office, Onoki looked at the paper report in his hand and smiled. It turned out that the Nine Tails Rebellion many years ago was caused by the traitors of the Uchiha clan. It was really ironic. Onoki still remembers the beating by Uchiha Madara. The Third Shinobi World War was when the fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato blew up the Canopy Bridge, and the situation was reversed. It is a rare irony to learn that Namikaze Minato was killed by his own disciple. After the Nine Tails Rebellion, Rock Shinobi took advantage of Namikaze Minato's death and had a brief conflict with Konaha. It was just because the Sannin members Jiraiya and Orochimaru were still alive at that time. Rock Shinobi did not gain any benefits, but lost a lot of manpower. Now Konaha, Sannin are gone, Kakashi has lost an eye, and the Hokage lineage has lost talents. The strongest fighting force is the Uchiha clan. You know, Konaha with Uchiha and Konaha without Uchiha have a huge difference in strength. Especially as it was revealed before that several Uchiha clans are masters of Mangekyō Sharingan. Onoki personally experienced the horror of Susanoo back then. In recent years, Uchiha and Konaha have been at odds, which is intriguing. The Uchiha clan is still a recognized big family in the ninja world, and it is not too much to be invited to watch the ceremony. Therefore, when receiving the official invitation from the Uchiha, Onoki decided to send people, ostensibly to watch the ceremony, but actually to investigate. Let Wangtu and Kuretsuchi go. Onoki thought for a moment, bring more guards, and make sure to find out the current situation of Konaha. Sunagaku, in the office of Sand Shinobi. Rasa sat at his desk, examining the invitation sent by Uchiha. Although Konaha is nominally an ally, in fact, the relationship between the two is not harmonious. In the previous Ninja World Wars, Sand Shinobi fought Konaha many times and ended in failure. With the country's declining strength, it is more like a forced alliance than an ally. However, the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Rasa is much better, and the two sides have trade exchanges. The business plan left by Kawasaki before allowed Rasa to open a variety of stores in and around Sunagaku. Although Sand Shinobi was poor, it did earn some income. Before that, No one in San Shinobi had ever been involved in beverage research. Many cold drinks were difficult to transport here, and things that relieved the heat were considered medicine. The creative products left by Kawasaki were very popular once they were launched. Whether it was the sweet and sour plum soup or the slightly bitter herbal tea, they all became a good summer drink. There were also snacks like burnt grass jelly, which were very popular among young people. The key point was that all the materials were dry goods, which were easy to transport. The raw materials that could not be found in the Wind Country were all imported from Uchiha. We made them by ourselves in the village. In addition, Kawasaki helped to strengthen Gaara's seal before, so we owed him a favor. Uchiha Kawasaki took over as the clan leader. It was a big event. According to reason, we had to send someone to take a look. And that Obito, was he a member of the organization that Kawasaki said had ideas about Jinchuriki? Yuasha made a quick decision. Send someone to call Yoshimaru over. Soon, Yoshimaru arrived at the office. Yoshimaru didn't fall into Gaara's hands back then, and now he has no knot in his heart. Under his short blonde hair, his eyes were bright and he was no longer the melancholy young man he used to be. In recent years, he has been assisting Rasa and taking care of Gaara, and he is considered to be Rasa's right-hand man. Rasa told Yoshimaru all the invitations and information he received. Yoshimaru said after listening, it would be great if Gaara could go. His transformation in recent years is all due to Kawasaki. He also wants to see Kawasaki again. Rasa shook his head. Gaara is still young and can only stay in the village. After all, as a Jinchuriki, Gaara is considered a strategic weapon of Tsunade, and he is young, so he is afraid of something happening. But because Kawasaki strengthened the seal, Shukaku has not made any mistakes in recent years, and Tsunade has been well governed. Which also made Rasa praised by the daimyo of the Wind Country, who gave him more funds, making the life of San Shinobi a little better. I sent you to visit because you are with Gaara every day and you know his situation best. On the one hand, it is to thank Kawasaki for helping Gaara, and on the other hand, I want to ask if the seal needs to be strengthened. When Gaara was young, Yuasha experienced too many times when Shukaku lost control. Each time, the village was turned upside down, and in the end, a large amount of money had to be paid. Now that Gaara has stabilized, it is equivalent to saving a lot of expenses, which makes Yuasha cherish and be cautious. Second, we need to find out how big a threat Obito is, and whether he is a member of the organization that wants to capture the tailed beast. I understand, Lord Kazekage, do you want to tell Gaara? Yoshimaru also wants to see Kawasaki again. This person completely changed Gaara's childhood and saved his life. Yuasha showed a gentle smile on his face. In recent years, Gaara is no longer disturbed by Shukaku. Advertisement. 0. He has completely become a normal child, and the pain of the past seems to be far away from him. A few years can change a lot of things. Gaara, who no longer loses control and hurts people, even made a few friends. Following Kawasaki's advice, Rasa paid special attention to educating Gaara. He was surprised to find that Gaara was very smart and had a strong sense of responsibility. If he can control the tailed beasts in the future, he may even be an excellent successor. Gaara is already becoming outstanding. Just tell him these things directly. Got it. Yoshimaru nodded. Gaara has always remembered Kawasaki's visit to reinforce the seal. He mentioned many times that he would repay Kawasaki when he grows up. Although Gaara cannot leave the village now, it is good to send a message to Uchihazaki. Also, let Temari and Konkuro go with them to open their eyes. As for Gaara, let Baki take care of him. Water Country, Kurigakure. Terumi Mei, who has taken the position of 5th Mizukage, was the last to get the news. After all, the sea route is too long, and the messaging ninja bird will take several days to fly. Kawasaki knew the plight of the land of water. He estimated that Terumi Mei had no time to care about other countries at the moment, and notifying the land of water was just a courtesy. He also made it clear that he understood that the land of water was far away and there was no need to send anyone. Otherwise, a month would not be enough just on the road, and if there was a storm at sea, it would take even longer. Terumi Mei also noticed the bounty offered by the Uchiha clan to Obito, and Mist Shinobi suffered a great loss at the hands of Obito. Mist Shinobi suffered more than a loss. If it weren't for Kawasaki's visit, the 4th Mizukage would still be under the control of the other party. 0. In recent years, the national power of the land of water has declined, and Obito has also made an indelible contribution. Mist Shinobi felt ashamed when such a big scandal of Kurigakure was exposed by Kawasaki. But there was nothing she could do. There were too many people watching the excitement at the time, and Mist Shinobi was famous for her many traitors. The news would leak out sooner or later. But Terumi Mei didn't have the heart to think about these things now, because a bigger problem came. 4th Mizukage Yagura died, committed suicide. Mist Shinobi was almost completely destroyed by him, and his self-esteem did not allow him to continue living. The reason why he stayed in the cell was because Three Tails Isobu was sealed in his body, which was Mist Shinobi's precious treasure. Unfortunately, Yagura was constantly assassinated and insulted in the past few years. Someone climbed over the high wall and broke into the prison just to spit at Yagura. Even the people who supervised the prison turned a blind eye to this. After all, too many people died when the 4th Mizukage was in power. So many families with bloodline limits were broken, and countless people were involved. Yugura's mental state was so bad that he finally committed suicide not long ago. He died together with Three Tails Isobu, and no one knew when and where he would be revived next time. Three Tails, gone. Many people were dissatisfied with Terumi Mei's taking the position of Mizukage, and the village lost Three Tails, which became an excuse to attack her. Terumi Mei was too busy cleaning up the mess to send anyone to attend Kawasaki's inauguration ceremony. However, Kawasaki still had to give face, and the big hole near the village has not been filled yet. Terumi Mei had no choice but to write a reply letter, explaining the situation through the messenger bird, saying that Miss Shinobi had other important matters and she couldn't spare time. The Land of Fire. Kakuzu had just completed a job when his teammate, accidentally, died again. At this moment, he carried the body alone and came to a remote place. He carried the body on his back. The skin of the body was gray and only simply bandaged, and it was faintly emitting a strange smell. But this was nothing to Kakuzu, the smell of money in his nose. A toilet appeared in front of him. Kakuzu walked in with the body and pressed the urinal to reveal a secret door. A bald man with a scar on his forehead appeared inside. When he saw Kakuzu, he hurriedly greeted, "Brother Kakuzu, please come in." Kakuzu was obviously very familiar with this place. After entering, he threw the body on a protruding wooden board. The bald man checked and confirmed, "Yes, Brother Kakuzu, this is a rebel ninja from the Land of Rocks, worth 7 million. Quote. Kakuzu was not satisfied with the amount, but this rock shinobi was not very strong, and except for the effort of finding someone, the rest of the time was not wasted. He took the cash box handed over by the bald man, and asked while counting the money, "Are there any good rewards or news recently?" The bald man stood aside, as if he had expected Kakuzu to ask, and then said, "Brother Kakuzu has been very busy recently, and there have been a lot of big news recently." Kakuzu paused while counting the money, and then said nothing. After Shin-Su paid the money, he said, "Money is no problem. What is the big thing you just mentioned?" "Two things. One is that Uchiha found out that the mastermind behind the Nine Tails Rebellion was a traitor named Uchiha Obito. Quote. The Uchiha clan has expelled him and offered a reward of 300 million for his capture." "How much?" Kakuzu was afraid that he had heard wrongly. "You should know that the reward for Six Tails Jinchuriki Yugao is only 5 million, and Sarutobi Asuma is 3.5 million. The chiefs of Hyuga and Uchiha, at most 100 million. The bounties for the cages of the major villages are only 200 to 300 million. What ability does Obito have to be worth so much? Only. Chapter 97 Rain Shinobi Tower. Kamui. White Zetsu. Exposed. Expelled. Encircled. The bald man seemed to have expected Kakuzu to ask, and quickly reiterated, "Brother Kakuzu, you heard it right, it's really 300 million. Uchiha was badly cheated by this Obito a few years ago, and he hates Obito to the core. Plus, this guy knows time-space ninjutsu, so the bounty is so high." Quote. Kakuzu's heart was shocked, and he quickly took the information. It turned out to be time-space ninjutsu. Anyone who mastered time-space ninjutsu in the ninja world was not an easy person. Thinking back then, the fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato, with his Flying Thunder God technique, was invincible on the battlefield. In this mission-oriented ninja world, it was allowed to abandon the mission and escape when seeing Namikaze Minato. You can imagine how strong Namikaze Minato was back then. You can't catch up with those who can beat you, you can't escape from those who can't beat you, where to fight, the fourth generation has the final say. The initiative of the battle is always in his hands, so Namikaze Minato was hailed as the most promising Hokage at the time. It's a pity that he died in the Nine Tails Rebellion inexplicably, which made other ninja villages gloat over his misfortune while investigating the cause of death of the fourth generation. As a result, naturally nothing was found. After all, Obito hid very deeply. Even in the current Akatsuki organization, there are only Nagato, Konan and Zetsu knew of his existence. Unexpectedly, after so many years, the real murderer that Konaha had not found out was found by the Uchiha clan. And the witness was Kakashi. However, the strange silence of the Konaha high level made everything confusing. No wonder Obito is worth so much money. Kakuzu didn't care much about the grievances between Konaha and Uchiha. He just wanted to make money now. After seeing Obito's high price, he was also eager to make a move, but the other party had time and space ninjutsu. At present, the information was limited and he didn't know where to start. However, Kakuzu still kept this news in mind. Rain Country, Rain Shinobi Village. It was still raining. Konan crossed the sky, stopped in front of an old tower, which seemed deserted and no one cared. There was a crack in the wall, and Nan put away Li Chi and went in. Entering inside was a vertical downward passage, and Konan spread his wings again and went straight down. Reached deep underground. The sewer pipes here are crisscrossed. Konan knew this place well. He turned left and right and came to a hidden basement. On both sides of the basement, there were several cylinders extending to the ground, and a bed stretched out from inside. Nagato's 6 paths were all lying on such beds. This was where Nagato maintained the bodies of the 6 paths. Konan turned the side door next to him, and inside was Nagato standing on a wooden cart. Nagato closed his eyes and fell asleep with even breathing. Konan did not wake Nagato up, but prepared a meal on the side. After returning home, Nagato took care of all the 6 paths and fell asleep to recover his energy. According to the various information revealed by Kawasaki, although Nagato did not dare to believe it completely, he believed its 7 points. And he became extremely wary of Obito and Zetsu. His physical condition was his biggest weakness. So he no longer fought as hard as before, and tried to recover as much strength as possible before considering the development of Akatsuki. After Konan waited for a long time, Nagato finally woke up. Nagato looked up. What's going on outside? Konan turned the meat in the pot and answered, the village is still normal. I left a paper clone, so it should be fine. Obito went to Uchiha and almost got killed there. Uchiha Fugaku was seriously injured. After that, Obito took Kakashi's Sharingan and is now missing. Uchiha Kawasaki announced that he would take over as the clan leader in a month, confirming the news that Uchiha Fugaku was seriously injured. He also revealed that Obito was the culprit of the Nine Tails Rebellion, and removed Obito from the list and hunted him down forever. Konan said, handing the lunch box in his hand to Nagato. Nagato pulled his hands out and slowly ate the lunch box. It turns out that he was the one who caused the Nine Tails Rebellion. He hid it very well. Nagato was weak, and he has been recuperating every day recently. He has improved a little and can now talk smoothly. The more he explores the accident that year, the more details he finds. It seems that I suddenly fell into a coma for several days, and my eyes seemed to be different at that time. But I was still young at that time, so I don't know clearly. But Nagato still remembers the day his parents died. Because Nagato's father is a doctor who works in the Rain Shinobi village battlefield, and his mother is a nurse. How could he not know the dangers of war? But they still went to save people even though they knew their lives were in danger. Judging from Aiza's sophisticated battlefield experience, his act of saving people was not the first time, but he was experienced. But Nagato happened to be there that time. As a parent, how could they not know that their son was timid and cowardly? It was almost certain that Nagato would make a sound. When the Konaha shinobi broke into the house, the first thing he said was, "Who's in there?" At this time, the father rushed up and grabbed the Konaha shinobi's hand. The second sentence of the Konaha shinobi was, "Damn, is it the enemy?" He never shouted until he died, "Not the enemy, we are doctors." This approach seems to be protecting Nagato, but it is more like seeking his own death. A doctor always saves people on the battlefield. Isn't it normal to surrender and protect himself when in danger? How could he save so many people when he couldn't even distinguish between enemies and his own people? Nagato didn't know whether Aiz was under an illusion at that time. But logically speaking, Aiz's approach was indeed very strange. In a country with continuous rain, Nagato drank the broth in small sips, and a long-lost warm current flowed through his body. He hasn't experienced this feeling for many years. Advertisement. Since he put away the power of 6 paths, his chakra is no longer overdrawn like before. The demand for Geto statue is also less. Now what he has to do is to accumulate strength and wait for the right time to confront Obito. The first task is to resolve the entanglement with Obito. As for the nuclear weapons, Kawasaki's words hit Nagato's heart. If Kawasaki is telling the truth, then his Rinnegan must contain Madara's secret backup plan. The existing intelligence has basically confirmed that the guy wearing the mask is most likely Obito. Especially with Kakashi's information, Obito's identity is set in stone. Although Kawasaki's words are 99% credible, Nagato still wants to confirm it from Kakashi himself. Once Obito's identity is confirmed, Kawasaki's words will be established, regardless of whether Ōtsutsuki comes or not. Obito is a target that Nagato must eliminate. In fact, there is no need to find Kakashi, just ask Ju directly, or directly question Obito. Obito doesn't know that Nagato has already understood the plan of the Moon Eye. When he fooled Nagato before, he always said that they would develop war weapons together. Even if Obito's identity is exposed, he may still deal with Nagato because he thinks he can still control the situation. In Obito's eyes, Nagato is still just a pawn. After Nagato figured out the relationship, he said to Konan, "Konan, I plan to contact Obito." Konan frowned. "Why do you do this?" Nagato said firmly. "Since Kawasaki has already revealed Obito's true identity, why don't we question him directly? He still needs me to control the Rinnegan now, he won't turn against me, and he is likely to confess his identity. Obito doesn't know that Kawasaki has told us about Project Tsuki no Mi. We can pretend to continue to cooperate with Obito and secretly accumulate strength." Konan objected. "This is too risky and too dangerous for you." Nagato's Rinnegan was full of determination. Obito has taken back Kakashi's left eye, and his pupil is probably stronger. If we don't take some risks, we may have no chance at all. If the Rinnegan doesn't belong to me, then I must have their backup plan, and there is no point in hiding. Quote. These days, Konan has also experienced a huge change in his heart. In the past, they could give everything for their dreams. However, Kawasaki told them that there is actually another way out. Konan also hopes that Nagato can have less burden. In the Kamui space, a blue and green Susanoo stands majestically on the stone platform. After a while, Obito took a breath and put away Susanoo. Yes, the pupil power is still growing. In the past few days, he has been testing the various abilities of Susanoo. He has never used Susanoo before. And Susanoo consumes a lot of pupil power. If it is not controlled well, you can't enter the Kamui space. After a short rest, Obito opened an Uzumaki and instantly passed through. When he appeared again, he was already at the border of the land of fire. Ju stood on the branch, looking at the sky boredly, and had been waiting for a long time. Why so long? Do you know how long I've been waiting? White Zetsu's tone was a little impatient. This guy just loves to order me around. He hid in Kamui space and had fun. Obito had a blank expression. I didn't pay attention to the time. What's going on in Konaha? Obito's attitude towards Ju was different than before. Black Zetsu had a complicated look in his eyes and laughed softly. I'm afraid you're in trouble. Obito frowned slightly. What trouble? Uchiha publicly announced your identity, including your promotion of the Nine Tails incident, and announced that you would be removed from the family tree. Removal. Family tree. Obito's face sank. This was to completely draw a line, not even leaving him a surname. Humph. Obito sneered. I don't care. In his mind, fragments of memories about Uchiha shattered one after another. He said stubbornly. That's it. Black Zetsu grinned. Not only that, Kawasaki also offered a reward of 300 million for your head, and spread the news that you knew time-space ninjutsu and disguised Madara to the entire ninja world. As expected, although Obito had been prepared, he didn't expect Kawasaki to directly announce it to the ninja world. Back then, Madara asked Obito to inherit his will and promote Project Tsuki no Mi in his capacity. In fact, Obito had no intention of resurrecting Madara. After all, he knew the procedures. Wouldn't it be better to be the boss himself? Why work for others? Madara's name was a good cover, but Kawasaki didn't expect it to be exposed when recruiting Kisame. Now it is directly announced to the entire ninja world. This is extremely unfavorable for future actions. Also, Kawasaki will take over as the head of the Uchiha clan in a month, and has invited many leaders of ninja clans and major ninja villages. Quote. Obito's face was gloomy, his eyes flickered. At this time, a wave came. Nagato. Obito and Zetsu exchanged glances, and both guessed that it might be a problem of Obito's identity being exposed. After all, Obito had been using Madara's identity to hide his identity. The two of them used their abilities at the same time, and their minds traveled through space and floated to an unknown cave. There were only 4 people in the empty cave: Konan, Pain, Obito and Zetsu. In the dark, a pair of lavender Rinnegan slowly opened. So you are Obito, not Uchiha Madara. The speed of speech was neither fast nor slow, but it contained a hint of ridicule. Obito was silent for a moment. It doesn't matter. Our goals are the same. Whether I am Obito or Madara, what's the difference? Haha, haha, advertisement. Pain's tone was emotional, but Obito could hear the sarcasm. If it is not accompanied by pain, you can't feel the truth. Obito said lightly. Pain put away his smile and looked at Obito. There is no peace in this world, this is the truth. Only by realizing our plan can the world return to normal. Obito has now collected both Mangekyō Sharingan, and his pupil power is growing rapidly. He doesn't want to conflict with Nagato now. After all, it's not easy to find someone who can resonate with the Gedo statue. So this is just a test. Pain didn't say anything. He is not as dependent on Obito as before. He even has a bit of contempt. Obito has long known this attitude. In the past, when working with Nagato, both sides used each other and were wary of each other, but Pain was more wary of Daisho. After all, Obito used Kamui to come and go without a trace. Even how to control the Rinnegan and how to control the Gedo statue were taught by Obito. This made Nagato secretly increase his level of vigilance against Obito. Even if Obito is not Uchiha Madara himself, he is definitely a tricky character. But now, Obito's identity was suddenly revealed, and Kawasaki even removed him from the family tree. In an instant, Obito became a wild child, who was not even qualified to have the Uchiha surname. Compared with the high-end vest of Uchiha Madara, this gap is too big. Although Obito's ability has not changed, Nagato still involuntarily developed contempt for him. At this moment, Obito's heart was full of twists and turns, and he wanted to find out Nagato's attitude towards him now. When Kawasaki takes over as the clan leader, it may be a chance to test it. No need. Pain interrupted Obito without hesitation and said firmly, now the organization is at a critical moment where it needs to hide. Going to Konaha rashly will only expose our information. How can we capture the tailed beast in the future? Your identity has been exposed when you went to Konaha this time, and you also leaked a lot of information, Zetsu. The organization is not strong enough now, and it needs to hide and wait for the opportunity. Zetsu apologized in a heavy tone. Sorry. Obito sneered in his heart, my pupil power is still increasing, and when I complete the transformation, I will definitely leave you behind. Do you really think you are a god? Obito's face was expressionless, but his words revealed concession. I understand. Rain Shinobi Village. Pain opened his eyes. Konan asked. What does Obito mean? Pain replied calmly. Obito is testing our attitude. He has suffered a heavy blow now. If we are still polite to him, he will be suspicious. Obito's identity has just been revealed, which means that more people will be wary of him in the future, but his strength has not been damaged. He took back his left eye and thought that I didn't know the secret of the double Sharingan, so he deliberately showed weakness. Quote. Such forbearance shows that he has something to hide. Compared to Obito, I am more willing to trust Kawasaki. Quote. Conan said that he was always nervous around Obito, and working with him was like competing with a tiger for food. Pain nodded and said, let's give it a try. He closed his eyes and transmitted a mental wave. Uchiha land. Kawasaki's expression changed slightly. Nagato actually contacted me on his own initiative. He asked everyone around him to leave. He lay down, adjusted to a comfortable position, performed secret techniques, and his thoughts drifted away. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in an unknown cave. Opposite him was Pain's figure. Kawasaki raised his hand and checked his virtual image. It felt like a video call, and there were occasional fluctuations in the signal. The signal of this thing is not very good. But it is already quite amazing. Ultra-long distance encrypted communication, unique. You are here. Quote. Pain's tone was completely different from when he talked to Obito. Talking to Kawasaki seemed very normal, just like old friends. Did Obito react? Kawasaki guessed that Obito might choose to hide now. Pain nodded. Obito's identity was exposed, and I deliberately showed toughness, so he backed off. Kawasaki touched his chin. Obito has always been cautious and always likes to hide behind the scenes. The reason why this calculation was successful is that I know all the information about Obito. But Obito doesn't know that I know him so thoroughly. Even after his information was leaked, even Fugaku could calculate him. Everything stems from the asymmetry of information. Now that Obito knows that his ability has been completely exposed, he will naturally be more careful in the future and will not show up easily. Obito has suffered from me several times. Now that he has found his left eye, his ability will increase rapidly, and he will definitely choose to lurk. Quote. Your Akatsuki organization must continue to develop in secret. Quote. Your physical condition. Kawasaki hesitated for a moment. The Nagato in front of him was obviously much weaker than Obito. Now that Obito has regained his eyes, it means that he can also activate Susanoo. With the double Kamui Hollow, it is simply impossible to start. Chapter 98 Kawasaki's Tricks. Konaha in danger. Jiraiya. Danzo. Nagato's Akatsuki organization is just starting out, and Kakuzu is even less likely to leave Conan with 600 billion in wealth. At present, Nagato and Conan are still far behind Obito in terms of hard power. Nagato's body itself is a major weakness. Once discovered by Zetsu, he will be powerless to resist. Kawasaki suddenly had an idea. Let Conan come over. I have something for you. I will contact you with a paper crane when I get there. Okay. His thoughts were interrupted. Kawasaki opened his eyes and found himself still lying on the bed. Stretching. Oh, I'm so tired. Being the clan leader is really a hassle. After Kawasaki came back, he learned that Fugaku had obtained the time-sealing magic circle of the Witch of the Demon Country. It turns out that there is really something that can restrain time-space ninjutsu. It seems that Fugaku is still useful when he is alive, otherwise he would not know that there is such a magic weapon. If the time-sealing magic circle could not be used continuously, Obito would have died. Kawasaki immediately sent someone to the demon country again. The situation there is still unclear. However, with the time-sealing magic weapon in the clan, the safety of the clan members is finally guaranteed. After Kawasaki agreed to take over as the clan leader, Fugaku announced the news in the clan. Now, no matter how big or small the matter is, it must be reported to Kawasaki. He never knew that as the head of a clan, he had so many things to take care of. The income of the snack street, the trading materials of Sunagaku, the rewards for the birth of the clan members' children, etc., all need to be reported. Although Kawasaki had macro manipulation Uchiha, although he has made significant progress in the study of the movement. But he has never done it himself in the specific details of the operation. He is not overly greedy for power. After all, there is still the great Buddha of Ōtsutsuki hanging above his head, and there is not much point in being greedy for power. So, in the past few days, Kawasaki has been selecting suitable candidates to assign these matters of all sizes. Konaha Village. Hokage Office. The third Hokage, Shimura Danzo, Mitokado Homura, and Udatane Kaharu are all gathered. Because the third Hokage has received many formal official letters. These letters come from other ninja villages. Since Uchiha nominally belongs to Konaha. Therefore, the guests invited to the succession ceremony of the Uchiha clan leader have responded with 2 letters of trust. One is to notify Konaha for reception, and the other is to avoid misunderstanding. The other is to reply to Uchiha, informing them that the invitation letter has been received and whether they will participate. Let's take a look. Quote. The third Hokage threw the document on the table. He motioned Danzo to read it. Danzo and the other 2 read it one by one. Rock Shinobi, Cloud Shinobi, and Sand Shinobi all said they would attend. There was no news about Mist Shinobi, so he probably wouldn't come. These people have ulterior motives. Mitokado Homura was a little worried. The third Hokage tapped another document with his pipe, which was also a park. This is the new Otogakur village, and there, Otokoku, will also be there. Quote. Danzo sneered. The head of a small village dares to call himself a cage. His disdain is not without reason. Nowadays, apart from the 5 major countries, there are many other small countries and villages. But most of them are not strong enough, and the strongest are only at the level of elite jonin. And there are so few of them that they can't make a difference. If you don't have any real skills, you can't just say you are a cage. Except for being able to show off your power in your own village, you will become a laughingstock as soon as you go out. The third Hokage shook his head. This Yin has just completed the succession ceremony, and we don't know much about him. But Shisui and the more than 100 Uchiha people are indeed all staying in the Yin village. Humph. Danzo forgot for a moment that the Uchiha family had more than 100 capable people running away. The Uchiha clan. I guess this Yin is a puppet supported by the Uchiha family. Quote. The third generation shook their heads. Uchiha Kawasaki's move is clearly to put pressure on us. Our relationship with Uchiha was not very good to begin with, and now a large group of people from other villages have come, blatantly trying to find out our details. If we don't take some measures, I'm afraid Kawasaki will publicly announce his departure from Konaha. The third Hokage's words made sense. After all, Kawasaki had previously proposed that Konaha announce the Uchiha family's action plan during the Nine Tails night. But the Konaha high-level officials kept dragging their feet and did not give a clear answer because of their face. Kawasaki used the excuse of becoming the clan leader to invite so many people from other ninja villages to watch the ceremony. This is obviously adding more pressure on Konaha's shoulders. And from the perspective of strength, Itachi has already returned to Uchiha, and Shisui is back again. With Kawasaki and Fugaku, Uchiha now has 4 pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan. Counting the more than 100 elite Uchiha who have returned and the remaining clansmen, Uchiha is now almost capable of a revolution. Especially these more than 100 elite Uchiha, each of them is not a pushover, and if they really start to make trouble, they can turn the world upside down. But you can't stop them from going home. After all, it was the third Hokage who signed that they ran away from home. Since they ran away, it is reasonable for them to return to the village for such a big event as the replacement of the clan leader, right? Kawasaki's move made the third Hokage feel that a storm was coming. In Konaha village. Advertisement. In the Hokage's office. The third Hokage knocked on the table. The rumors are spreading all over the village now. There is no point in delaying it any longer. Several people have heard about the rumors that have been circulating in the village recently. That is to say, on the night of Nine Tails, the Uchiha clan followed the instructions of the Konaha high-level officials to protect non-combatants. It is completely different from not participating in the battle. In the early years, no one would believe such rumors. After all, the Uchiha clan is responsible for public security. They offend people every day, so how can anyone speak for them? But the Uchiha clan is no longer the same as it used to be. Now in Konaha village, you can hardly see Uchiha clan members wandering around. The Uchiha clan now is not a security force, nor does it rely on Konaha to assign tasks. It is doing a thriving catering business. Now that such rumors have come out, many people have started to imagine. Did the Uchiha clan fall apart from the Konaha village because of these angers? The Hyuga family really leans to the side of the wind. Danzo said angrily. The last time, Hyuga should have completely left. Uchiha broke with Konaha and stood on Konaha's side. But after the Hyuga family took the position of honorary elder, they did not have a direct conflict with Uchiha. Now it is obvious that they are helping Uchiha again, and Danzo is quite dissatisfied. The rumor spread so quickly, and Anbu found that the source was in the Hyuga family. Unfortunately, the few people really can't do anything about the Hyuga family. Konaha's situation is already difficult enough now, so who dares to provoke Hyuga? For such things, they can only turn a blind eye. Of course, compared with these things about the Hyuga family, they are more worried that Uchiha will take advantage of this succession of the clan leader to cause trouble. Hiruzen, I suspect that Uchiha will make a move this time. Danzo suddenly said this. After hearing this, the third generation did not blame Danzo as before. Because he also had this worry in his heart. Udatane Kaharu suggested. Why not make the deployment of that year public? Mitokado Homura nodded in agreement. Try to see if you can calm Kawasaki's emotions. Quote. The third generation took a puff of cigarette and couldn't think of any good solution for a while. Now it seems that this is the only way. The three of them looked at Danzo in unison. After all, it was Danzo who strongly opposed Uchiha's intervention. The manipulation of public opinion was also planned by Danzo. Now there is a problem. It seems that only Danzo can take the blame. Danzo noticed the gazes of the three and looked very unhappy. Hiruzen, do you think this will solve the problem? Uchiha is ambitious. Even if they admit what happened in the past, they will still rebel. The third generation calculated in their hearts that if the current Uchiha revolted, how many people could Anbu take over and how much combat power would the root organization have left? Danzo has always been secretive about the root organization. If Danzo's root organization does not move this time and Uchiha rebels, Konaha may be seriously injured. With Danzo's personality, He is likely to sit back and wait until Konaha and Uchiha are both injured before taking action to reap the benefits. Unless he can win for sure, otherwise Danzo is also a big problem. Now it seems that we can only mobilize the major ninja clans. When the Uchiha really makes trouble, how many people can help? The key is that those pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan are not easy to deal with. If we are not careful, there will be chaos. For a moment, everyone was silent. DXXX. The knock on the door interrupted the third Hokage's thoughts. Knocking on the door at this time, there should be important information to report. The third generation said, "Come in." And Anbu walked in and reported. Third generation Master Jiraiya is back. The third generation was excited. Jiraiya is back. Where is he? As for Jiraiya, he should be able to control the situation. When Jiraiya was young, his strength was not outstanding. He was the dumbest among the three apprentices. But after returning unexpectedly from Mount Myoboku, Jiraiya found his own way. His strength has improved by leaps and bounds. If he is not too lazy, he would be more than enough to be a Hokage with this strength. Anbu's scalp numbed by the burning eyes of the third generation. Master Jiraiya is not far from Konaha. He will be there in about 10 minutes. The third generation responded repeatedly. Okay, let him come to see me as soon as he enters the village. Yes. Anbu quickly retreated. As soon as the door was closed, there were only 4 people left in the room. The third generation seemed to have more confidence because of Jiraiya's return. With Jiraiya here, Uchiha shouldn't dare to act rashly. When Danzo saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's look, he knew he was going to retreat again. Hiruzen. The Uchiha now is not what it used to be. Do you expect Jiraiya to stay in the village forever? The third generation paced back and forth. At least we have to get through this hurdle first. Danzo's heart sank. The Uchiha is now in full swing, and the third generation has become more distant from him recently. Maybe this is the last chance. Danzo said angrily. What if Itachi and Shisui don't leave? I'll let Jiraiya come forward. The third generation had other ideas in mind. Humph, if the village really wants to fight with the Uchiha, do you still expect you to work hard? If Jiraiya is alone, it always feels like something is missing. Danzo saw that the third generation had made up their minds and snorted coldly. We can only find another time. But we can also arrange the request made by Kawasaki before. After all, the Uchiha clan is still a part of our Konaha family. As soon as the third Hokage said this, Danzo was furious. Sarutobi Hiruzen, are you going to use me as a shield? Danzo finally got back to the position of honorary elder. Unexpectedly, the third generation members who were once close to him not only gradually guarded against him, but now they don't want to push him out as a scapegoat. Danzo has already noticed that the third generation members are going to suppress him. Now he is being dragged out to take the blame, but the situation is like this. Danzo is angry in his heart and can't speak. The third Hokage said, didn't you advocate that thing back then? Advertisement. You guys. It was indeed Danzo who proposed this matter, but it was unanimously approved by the 4 people. I don't agree. Danzo's eyes were burning with anger. Third, the generation leader was also annoyed at this time. It's already this late, and you still care about your reputation. You will regret it, old Hokage. Enough. I am the Hokage. The third Hokage slammed his palm on the table. Oh, why is the old man so angry? At this time, a person climbed in from the window. It was Jiraiya. Danzo glanced at Jiraiya. It's all your fault. You didn't come back at any other time, but now. He snorted heavily and left with an angry face. What's going on? Jiraiya scratched his head. Did Danzo eat explosives? Udatane Kaharu and Mitokado Homura saw that they had nothing to do, so they followed him out. The third generation was a little angry, but when they saw Jiraiya, they felt much better. Jiraiya seemed careless and unreliable on weekdays. But at the critical moment, this guy was really reliable. The third Hokage smiled. You came back just in time. If you hadn't come back this time, ye would have been in danger. Jiraiya's expression also became serious. Is it because of Uchiha Kawasaki's succession to the head of the clan? Although he didn't collect much intelligence along the way, the Uchiha's movements were so loud that even civilians knew about it. Jiraiya obviously heard about it. The third Hokage nodded. You don't know, Otogaku. He showed Jiraiya a few official documents. It was no problem for other ninja villages to send people. But Otogaku, the head of Otogaku was going to come, and he had to bring back more than 100 Uchiha people. There was also Shisui, plus Itachi who had quietly returned to the village before. The current Kawasaki 787, and Fugaku in the clan, are 4 Mangekyō Sharingan. Although Jiraiya and Kawasaki had a fight before, who knows what Kawasaki is thinking now. In Konaha village, Hokage's office, Oto Ninja Leader. Where did Oto Ninja Leader come from? They were nowhere to be seen the last time I went there. Jiraiya asked curiously. The third generation took a puff of cigarette. The inauguration ceremony that was just held recently is considered to be a village that publicly claims to have a leader outside of the 5 major ninja villages. Jiraiya nodded, thinking it was not surprising. The last time I went there. Jiraiya told the third Hokage about the prosperity of Oto Nin village and what he saw and heard. Oto Nin village has developed rapidly and almost monopolized all tasks in the surrounding small countries. Adding the catering industry in Uchiha, Oto Nin village is no longer a small village. I suspect that the Otogakure village is a puppet supported by Uchiha. The third generation speculated. Jiraiya laughed. Old man, guessing is too troublesome, why not just ask Orochimaru directly? The third generation's expression changed. Then he looked at Jiraiya seriously and asked. Jiraiya, I'm asking you seriously now, do you really want to be Hokage? Answer me seriously. Quote. For the third generation, if Jiraiya is willing to take over as Hokage, I will be much more relaxed. Jiraiya's loyalty to the village is self-evident. As a disciple, he is also the master of the fourth generation Namikaze Minato, and his strength is also top-notch. Except that he is not a good person. Although he cannot guarantee that he can contain the Uchiha, he can at least ensure the safety of Konaha. Jiraiya was startled. Seeing that the third generation looked serious and did not seem to be joking, he slowly frowned and thought. He paced back and forth for a few circles, his eyes swept over the piles of documents in the calendar park. Sometimes, the scene of drinking and having fun flashed in his mind. Sometimes, the scene of himself sitting at his desk reviewing documents flashed in his mind. The scene of Namikaze Minato sacrificing for the village flashed in his mind. Jiraiya sighed. Sorry, old man. Quote. Although it was expected, the third generation felt uncomfortable after hearing Jiraiya's direct rejection. The power of the Konaha village cage was confusing. When he was young, he was ambitious to make a difference and build Konaha village into the strongest. But later he found that he had done many wrong things. Finally he realized that being a Hokage was really tiring. If I had known this. Many images flashed through the third generation's mind. Nawaki, Kato Dan, Hitaki Yinmao, Tsunade, Orochimaru. The final image stayed on Orochimaru. The third Hokage no longer hesitated. He said directly. I have prepared what Orochimaru wants. How can I give it to him? I want to see him. Jiraiya seemed to have guessed the third generation's thoughts. Old man, have you thought it through? Maybe Tsunade is not bad either. The third generation shook his head. Jiraiya did not fully understand his intentions. Although Orochimaru was recalled to prepare him as a candidate for the fifth Hokage. But now it is more important to accumulate more manpower to fight against Uchiha. After all, no matter how good Jiraiya is at fighting, how much can he handle? Chapter 99 Tsunade. Raichi Cave. White Snake Sage. Kabuto. Distinguished Heavenly Gods. Orochimaru. The third Hokage can feel more relieved when Orochimaru comes back. As for Tsunade mentioned by Jiraiya, Tsunade was originally the most suitable candidate for Hokage. Just look at her label and you will know, the granddaughter of the first Hokage. Unlike Naruto, who was secretive about his identity as the son of the fourth Hokage. Tsunade's identity as the granddaughter of the first Hokage, the founder of Konaha village, is known to everyone. This means that she has the purest Konaha bloodline. In terms of origin, no one in the entire Konaha can compare to her. As one of the Sannin, she is also a disciple of the third generation. Tsunade, a famous medical ninja in the ninja world, has first-class medical skills. If Tsunade inherits the Hokage, how many lives can her medical skills save in the war? Unfortunately, due to a change of mind, she acquiesced to Danzo's actions, which led to Tsunade's disheartened departure from Konaha and she has not returned for many years. The third generation often regretted why they indulged Danzo, or maybe they were greedy for the power in their hands. At the beginning, Konaha's White Fang was powerful and honorable, but the White Fang was the representative of the family faction. Although the Hitaki family has a small population, the appeal of the Hitaki family cannot be underestimated. If the White Fang becomes Hokage, they must support the families that are good to them. The third generation's plan of defamiliazation will fail. So when the White Fang mission failed, the third generation acquiesced to Danzo's public opinion offensive. The original intention was to dampen the prestige of the White Fang and teach him a lesson. Unexpectedly, the White Fang had such a strong sense of honor that he committed suicide directly. This caught the third Hokage off guard and he did not expect this result at all. If it were not for the secret permission of the third generation, the victory or failure of a mission would not have caused a stir in the village. If it were not for the tacit approval of the third generation, how could Danzo dare to do such an extraordinary thing? The third generation also had regrets, but fortunately, Namikaze Minato emerged in Konaha later. Minato was an orphan, born in an ordinary family, without any prominent background, and climbed up step by step with his strength. He also married Uzumaki Kushina. Kushina was the orphan of the Uzumaki clan. Although the Whirlpool country no longer exists, the wealth left behind is still considerable. Even several streets in Konaha are Kushina's property. With strong strength, clean background, and a wife who was both rich and Jinchuriki, Minato became the most promising candidate for Hokage in the third generation. Unfortunately, the subsequent development was beyond his control. The Nine Tails Rebellion caused the fourth generation to die unexpectedly, and Jinchuriki also died with them. Although the Nine Tails were resealed in Naruto's body. But Naruto was still young and could not form combat power in a short time. Konaha suffered heavy losses, and at this time Danzo proposed that the Nine Tails might be controlled by Uchiha. Because Uchiha was the most suspected at the time. In addition to the influence of Tobirama, the third generation had some prejudice against Uchiha. In the end, they acquiesced to the series of actions taken by the group against Uchiha. Over the years, the weakening of Uchiha has never stopped. Later, Uchiha Kawasaki stood out, and the Uchiha clan developed rapidly. Now, except for Jiraiya, Konaha has no other admiral who can match him. It is impossible for the heads of various ninja clans to serve Konaha wholeheartedly. There was a useful Kakashi before, but he was taken away by Obito and is now depressed. Compared with Uchiha, Konaha is in an awkward situation of lack of successors. In terms of scheming and wisdom, Jiraiya and Tsunade are far inferior to Orochimaru. In terms of ability, Orochimaru is even more proficient and almost impeccable. But in the eyes of the third generation, Orochimaru has no distinction between good and evil, and has no bottom line in doing things. At first, the third generation thought that Orochimaru was out of his control. I won't take sides with Danzo, so I chose Namikaze Minato. In the current situation, Orochimaru seems to be the best candidate. Orochimaru returns to the village, and the third generation takes advantage of their remaining strength to examine whether he can take over as Hokage. If Orochimaru is not suitable, they can only use the incident of the past to push Danzo out. In exchange for Tsunade's forgiveness and let her be Hokage. After all, Danzo is now useless except for taking the blame. In the eyes of the third generation, Uchiha Kawasaki is extremely smart, even cunning. Kawasaki appears to be careless, but every decision is unexpected. And every time it strengthens Uchiha and weakens Konoha. Even if Jiraiya and Tsunade join forces, it is difficult to compete with Kawasaki. Perhaps only Orochimaru's mentality can compete with Kawasaki. Of course, if things cannot be done, he will be at ease whether Orochimaru, Tsunade or Jiraiya sits on the position of Hokage. If he is here, he can help them. If he is gone, Danzo, the hidden danger, must be eliminated before he dies. Advertisement. There is no obstacle between Orochimaru and Tsunade, and they will naturally help each other to preserve the roots of the leaves. In the Yin village, Yakushi Kabuto, with a naked upper body, patterns on his face, vertical pupils flashing, and a white body, is lying on a medical bed. Unlike the original world, Kabuto does not have an extra tail, a mask on his face, and no horns. Orochimaru collects Kabuto's data and talks to him. Tell me about your experience in Raichi Cave and how you cultivated into Sage Mode. While maintaining Sage Mode, Kabuto answered, after being taken there by Princess Ikikishima, I met the White Snake Immortal. The White Snake Immortal said that I have a special physique and am very suitable for practicing the Snake Immortal art. There are two ways to practice the Snake Immortal art. One is that the White Snake Immortal transmits natural energy through snake teeth. The other is to absorb natural energy by yourself and form a mark. At this point, Orochimaru paused. What's the difference? The natural energy transmitted by the White Snake Immortal is transformed and will make people involuntarily turn into snakes. According to Princess Ikikishima, if the practitioner cannot withstand this energy and turns into a snake, he will be swallowed by the White Snake Immortal. Self-absorption is very slow, and entering Sage Mode cannot last long. Kabuto looked at his fair skin. But the White Snake Immortal said that after he injects natural energy, you can survive the initial stage and maintain Sage Mode for a long time, and eventually the snake can evolve into a dragon's mouth. Oh, Orochimaru asked curiously, so you chose the White Snake Immortal to inject energy? Kabuto shook his head. Although the White Snake Immortal injected energy into me, my snake transformation reaction was not obvious. But when the white scales first appeared, I found that my mind was corroded, so I changed my mind. I gave up letting the White Snake Immortal inject it and chose to absorb it myself. Self-absorption has much less erosion on my mind. Orochimaru watched and found that he had changed a lot. He took the initiative to give up the Sage Mode that was within his reach and chose a more difficult path. It seems that leading the Sound Village over the years has also made Kabuto mature a lot. Orochimaru asked with interest. Why do you choose this way? Ability improvement is just an added value, and things that are too powerful are often accompanied by side effects. Quote. Kabuto clenched his fists. The pursuit of life needs to be slowly explored by oneself, not imposed by others. Quote. Master Kawasaki said that the most important thing for a person is to be happy. Quote. I am very happy to follow Master Orochimaru. Quote. Kabuto's expression was serious, and his eyes were no longer confused. He looked at Orochimaru with admiration. Okay, get up. Orochimaru had no expression on his face, but the corners of his mouth were raised. What effect did your snake state of accepting natural energy injection have on you? Kabuto shook his head. I will absorb natural energy by myself, and my skin will gradually return to its original color. At this moment, Kabuto exited Sage Mode, the image of a gentle young man. In Raichi Cave, he chose to absorb natural energy by himself to practice snake magic. The White Snake Immortal not only did not object, but was very supportive. According to him, few people choose to absorb natural power by themselves. Because humans and snake magic are not a perfect match, the human body absorbs natural energy slowly, and snake transformation solves this problem. Although the Sage mode that absorbs energy by itself has a better enhancement effect, it lasts too short. As long as the mind is normal after snake transformation, the Sage mode is stable. Unfortunately, it is difficult for most people to maintain their original nature after turning into snakes. So in the end of practicing snake magic in Raichi Cave, everyone will become more and more like the White Snake Immortal. In the end, they just really turned into a snake. For hundreds of years, the White Snake Immortal has seen too many people like him, but they didn't become like him in the end. He was already bored and accepted the fact that there would be no new ones of his kind. But this time, Kabuto, who was brought back by Princess Aikikishima, had an amazing match in practicing snake magic. Whether it was absorbing natural energy by himself or turning into a snake quickly, Kabuto did it quickly and well. Although self-absorption of natural energy was slow, the White Snake Immortal was also curious about what level Kabuto could reach. Although Kabuto did not choose to completely transform into a snake, his physique has undergone earth-shaking changes since he practiced the immortal art. The most obvious point is that his myopia has been cured. But he is still used to wearing those glasses, which is a remembrance of the dean and also his own symbol. Orochimaru checked the data and said, "Your physical fitness has increased by 2 times, and it has reached 5 times in Sage mode. The perception is far beyond that of ordinary perception-type ninjas, and the recovery is like continuous medical ninjutsu treatment. I will test the effect of the enhanced ninjutsu next time when I have time. Lord Kawasaki has other things for me to do." "I understand, because of the heavenly man." Kabuto stood up and put on his clothes. Orochimaru asked rarely, "Do you feel uncomfortable as a sound and shadow?" Kabuto pushed his glasses. "Actually, there is no difference. I still do the same things as before, but I have an extra title." Lord Kawasaki said that it would be more convenient to act as a sound and shadow. "I think this is indeed feasible." Just as Orochimaru was about to say something, the bell next to him rang softly. Advertisement. Orochimaru was stunned for a moment before he remembered the purpose of the bell. "Let's talk about this later. Go and take care of the village affairs first." "Yes, Lord Orochimaru." Orochimaru walked to a pond. There was a red toad waiting for him there. This was the communication frog left by Jiraiya. This period of time was the most comfortable for the communication frog. There were many people in Ōtōgakur village, and summoned beasts were common. As a member of Mount Myoboku, the toads rarely had to go home every day. Recently, this communication frog has been very busy, running around and trying all kinds of food. However, today, he finally received news from Jiraiya, saying that he needed to talk to Orochimaru. Since he was a toad specifically responsible for communication, he naturally had the ability of simultaneous interpretation. Otherwise, if he ran to Mount Myoboku just to pass a message back and forth, wouldn't he become an ordinary postman toad? "What does Jiraiya want to talk to me about?" Orochimaru vaguely felt the purpose of Jiraiya's visit. As soon as Orochimaru arrived, the frog immediately connected with Jiraiya. Not long after, the frog heard Jiraiya's slightly rough voice. "Orochimaru, the old man has prepared something for you, I will bring it to you next time." In Konaha village, in the Hokage's office, there was also a frog squatting in front of Jiraiya, but it was a green one. Jiraiya passed the message, but Orochimaru did not respond. Jiraiya and the third Hokage waited patiently, and after a long time, the frog heard Orochimaru's voice. Orochimaru's tone was flat, without any emotional fluctuations, and he only said, "Got it, no need to bother to send it." Quote. Jiraiya and the third Hokage exchanged glances, and then Jiraiya said, "Orochimaru, the old man wants to talk to you." Quote. Orochimaru was silent for a while. "Go ahead." Quote. The third generation thought about it for a long time, and finally said only one sentence. "Orochimaru, could it be that the Yinyan village was supported by the Uchiha family?" Orochimaru chuckled. "Yinyan village and Uchiha are just using each other, and they also cooperate with me." "Then do you know about Onakage of Ōtōgakur?" Jiraiya asked curiously. He wanted to know who Onakage was in this newly emerged village. Orochimaru laughed mockingly. Onakage was originally from Konaha, but was forced to escape by Danzo. The third generation frowned. Why was he involved with Danzo again? Who is it? Orochimaru did not answer directly. This time Uchiha Kawasaki takes the throne, he will come to Konaha, and you will know when the time comes. The third generation thought for a while, but it didn't work. Danzo had too many enemies, and they really couldn't guess who would have the ability to create a ninja village. Quote. Orochimaru, you also have a share in the Ōtōgakur village. 17 The third generation's voice was full of confidence. Teacher really knows everything. Orochimaru said without surprise. After all, not everyone can do such a big thing as creating a ninja village. It's normal for the third generation to guess it directly. No wonder Uchiha didn't set up Ōtōgakur village. It turns out that Orochimaru was behind Ōtōgakur village. As we all know, Uchiha Shisui and Itachi used to be active in Ōtōgakur village. The third generation even suspected that the so-called Ōtōgakur had fallen into the control of Shisui's distinguished heavenly gods. Or, the Ōtōgakur itself was a puppet of Uchiha. Shisui once introduced the power of distinguished heavenly gods to the third Hokage. But the third generation had never seen Shisui use it, so they didn't know how powerful distinguished heavenly gods were. The third generation pondered in their hearts and asked, "What kind of cooperation do you have with Uchiha?" Orochimaru did not hide. "Uchiha's catering expansion uses my people. Only my people can keep Uchiha's catering secrets from being leaked." The third generation suddenly realized that it was no wonder that there were so many stores in Tianjiguo. It should be easy to steal the secret recipe. However, over the years, many people who tried to copy Tianjiguo's catering secret recipe returned empty-handed. If it was Orochimaru's subordinates, this would not be difficult to understand. After all, Grandmaster Orochimaru has various spells and forbidden techniques. If he wants people to keep secrets, he has countless means. Moreover, Orochimaru is good at training dead men. When he defected, on the one hand, the third Hokage did not really pursue him. On the other hand, it was because Orochimaru's subordinates were fierce and fearless. If they attacked Orochimaru's main representative, the remaining losses would be heavy. It turned out that Uchiha saved the country in this way. Orochimaru and the current Yinyan co-founded the Yinyan village, just when they were short of people and money. Uchiha Kawasaki found him and first made Itachi and Shisui, who left the village, and other Uchiha members become the backbone of Yinyan village. Orochimaru used the curse forbidden technique to train death warriors, and then expanded the catering business. In the end, Uchiha arranged for the tribesmen who left their hometowns to ensure that the secret recipe was not exposed, and the catering business flourished. Uchiha and Orochimaru both made a lot of money. Today, the development of Yinyan village is quite successful. This cooperation is a win-win situation. Of course, the rise of Yinyan village was entirely due to Uchiha and his party. But as Yinyan village has become stronger over the years, the number of ninjas who defected to Yinyan village has gradually increased, and the influence of Omichiya has weakened. Whether Yinyan will turn to Uchiha, the third generation is not sure. What the third generation is considering is whether Orochimaru has been controlled by the distinguished heavenly gods. Orochimaru suddenly it was strange to have a relationship with the Uchiha clan. You know, Orochimaru had nothing to do with the Uchiha before. Third generation thought. Orochimaru, have you seen Uchiha Shisui? Yes, not only have you seen him, but he also sees him every day. Orochimaru replied calmly. Yes. You may not know that Shisui's Sharingan is Mangekyō Sharingan. Orochimaru didn't understand what third generation meant. When Mangekyo Sharingan is awakened, you will gain special eye skills. Masashi's eye skills are called distinguished heavenly gods. Old man, how do you know so much? After listening to the third generation's introduction, Orochimaru became really curious. Chapter 100 Distinguished Heavenly Gods. Lord Kawasaki. Tsunade visits. Because Shisui never introduced his eye technique, he only mentioned that it was an illusion. The third generation laughed and said, Shisui planned to use distinguished heavenly gods to prevent a possible coup in the clan. And then his eyes were dug out by Danzo. The whole ninja world now knows that Danzo dug out Shisui's eyes. The third generation was choked and said, I wanted to say that distinguished heavenly gods is the strongest illusion, which can invade other people's minds without being noticed and change their will. This technique is so powerful that it allows the other party to be controlled unconsciously. Orochimaru looked solemn. He didn't expect distinguished heavenly gods to have such a powerful power. And the third generation's implication was clear. Old man, what do you mean? When did you get in touch with Uchiha? Why did you cooperate with Uchiha? Do you feel something is wrong? I understand, old man. There was no sound from Orochimaru. The contact frog showed that Orochimaru had left. Jiraiya, who was standing by, was surprised. Old man, are you saying that Orochimaru was manipulated by Uchiha? The third generation took a puff from his pipe. We can't rule out this possibility. After all, he is Shisui's distinguished heavenly gods. Orochimaru hurried back to the base and began to review why he chose to cooperate with Uchiha. Uchiha is very reliable and a trustworthy ally. How did he develop this almost instinctive trust? As a scientist, Orochimaru has a strong ability of logical reasoning. Putting aside emotional factors, Orochimaru found discord in logical reasoning. I had no intersection with Uchiha in the past, so why did I suddenly trust the Uchiha clan? Even the Uchiha family, I treated them wholeheartedly. A suspicious person like me, who would I trust without reservation? Orochimaru called Shisui without saying a word. After Shisui entered the room, he saluted Orochimaru first, although he used distinguished heavenly gods controlled Orochimaru. But this control seemed to deepen Orochimaru's trust in the Uchiha clan. Shisui had always respected Orochimaru. Orochimaru looked gloomy. Shisui, tell me about your Mangekyo Sharingan's eye technique. What exactly is the ability of distinguished heavenly gods? Shisui was slightly startled. Lord Orochimaru, have you noticed it? My eye technique is called distinguished heavenly gods, which can directly invade the other party's mind without the other party noticing. So, you admit it. Orochimaru's eyes were blurred, and his vertical pupils were full of dangerous aura. Shisui said calmly. Lord Kawasaki once said that using distinguished heavenly gods to control will be exposed one day, and then just confess directly. After distinguished heavenly gods changes the will of others, chakra will not stay for long. Only at the moment of casting, chakra can be seen entwining T's brain. However, After the spell was cast, 873 successfully interfered with his consciousness, and chakra no longer appeared. Once this matter was revealed, the accused had a keen ability to analyze logic and could detect the abnormality. As for Orochimaru, distinguished heavenly gods did not change Orochimaru's cognition or fabricate a fictitious memory. It just made the relationship between Orochimaru and Kawasaki quickly leap from knowing to familiarity and even trust. Looking at Shisui's defenseless appearance, Orochimaru waved his hand fiercely and turned his back to him. Call Kawasaki back. I have to ask him in person. If Itachi and Shisui had not respected him all these years, and Kawasaki always regarded him as a partner, he would have turned his face against him long ago. Shisui didn't understand how Orochimaru knew about distinguished heavenly gods, but remembered that Kawasaki once said that if this day really came, you must not be wary of Orochimaru. Being wary is like seeking death. That's why Shisui can be so calm. As for what will happen in the future, Shisui doesn't know, but the first priority now is to recall Kawasaki. Shisui bit his finger cruelly. Summoning. Bang. A crow appeared on the ground. Shisui took out the reverse summoning spell that Kawasaki had prepared for him. Reverse summoning. DB. DB. Accompanied by the cry of crows. Bang. Kawasaki's figure appeared. Oh, what the hell, Shisui, why did you suddenly call me over? Kawasaki still held Tsunagaku's reply letter in his hand. Shisui lowered his head. Sorry, senior, it was Orochimaru who asked me to call you. Kawasaki looked at Orochimaru, who turned around and looked unfriendly. With a move in his heart, he washed down with the national water. Shisui looked at Kawasaki, glanced at Orochimaru, and retreated with a complicated expression. Orochimaru did not stop him. Orochimaru, what's going on? Orochimaru's face was as dark as water. Did you ask Shisui to use distinguished heavenly gods on me? Kawasaki nodded and said naturally, yes. Orochimaru was amused by Kawasaki's frank attitude. You actually admitted it directly. Kawasaki said helplessly, it takes too much time to win your trust. I think mutual suspicion will only waste more time. Although I used distinguished heavenly gods on you, it was just to save the process of building trust. After all, I have always regarded you as a partner. Orochimaru's face eased a little. Are you so afraid of me finding out? Kawasaki stepped forward and put his arm around Orochimaru's shoulder. There is a saying that no one is perfect in terms of motivation, regardless of behavior. Advertisement. Who else in the world can do my research topics except you? Time is tight. Wouldn't it save more time to skip the trust building stage? Orochimaru snorted coldly and shook off. Kawasaki shook his head. Then your ability to foresee the future is fake. Kawasaki shook his head. That is true, otherwise I would have gone to great lengths to find you to cooperate with me for the money. I can't find another pure scientist like you in the world, and no one can match you in scientific research ability. Kawasaki's words were not flattery, but he really thought so. Others compete with bloodline, background, and power. Only Orochimaru relies on science. Although Orochimaru is not a person who is easily praised, he can feel Kawasaki's sincere admiration. The dissatisfaction in his heart also disappeared. This Kawasaki is indeed a vision. However, if Orochimaru simply forgives Kawasaki, it will not be acceptable. He asked with a stern face, how are you going to give me an explanation for this matter? Well, Kawasaki's eyes rolled and saw that Orochimaru no longer cared about the weight of the distinguished heavenly gods. After all, they have had a pleasant cooperation over the years. The research projects and directions brought by Kawasaki are deeply appreciated by Orochimaru, and a lot of knowledge is also revealed by Kawasaki. But face still needs to be given to Orochimaru. So, then let him be your subordinate, as an apology. Kawasaki told Orochimaru his idea. Orochimaru's eyes lit up. Really? Kawasaki shrugged. When did I make such a joke? Is this also one of your abilities? Kawasaki replied. It can only be used once. If you can copy it, it will be amazing. Orochimaru is accustomed to Kawasaki's endless surprises. Unexpectedly, there will be a bigger one today. Okay, I promise. If you can do it, Shisui's use of distinguished heavenly gods on me will be over. Quote. Orochimaru said with a smile. Kawasaki chuckled. Don't worry, as long as you solve the problem I left for you last time, this matter will be fine. The old man has already noticed that I am controlled by the distinguished heavenly gods. How do you plan to deal with it? Orochimaru asked. Kawasaki touched his chin. Although it is abrupt, it has come to this point, you can waver. Third generation will still feel that the temptation of the position of Hokage is huge. Orochimaru chuckled when he heard this, although the position of Konaha Hokage does give him many conveniences. But his ultimate goal is no longer something that a Hokage position can satisfy. Obito recently attacked Uchiha and took back his Sharingan. Our plan must be accelerated. Hokage office. Old man, if you are worried about Orochimaru being controlled, why did you contact him? Jiraiya did not understand the third Hokage's intention. The third generation glared at Jiraiya. Do you want to stay in Konoha village forever? Jiraiya laughed dryly. It was okay for a short time, but if it lasted for a long time, he would be bored. Jiraiya was a little embarrassed. If Orochimaru turns to Uchiha, you will lose more than you gain. Orochimaru is not that simple. As soon as the third generation finished speaking, Jiraiya's contact frog was turned. Third generation, it's Orochimaru's news. The contact frog reported. The third generation nodded and indicated to connect. Old man, I owe you a favor for this matter. Orochimaru's voice came, and it seemed that the matter had been investigated and dealt with. Orochimaru, what are you going to do? The third generation asked tentatively. Orochimaru's voice was meaningful. Uchiha is still useful. The first thing that flashed through the third generation's mind was the benefits brought by Kawasaki restaurant. The third generation thought about it and asked, Orochimaru, can you return to the village? Jiraiya rolled his eyes and waited. Big CIFB, Orochimaru will mock you soon. But the expected mockery did not appear. Orochimaru was silent for a moment and said, Impossible, Danzo took too many scapegoats for me at that time, and the villagers could not accept me. So be it. Then, the communication was interrupted. The contact frog showed that the other party had hung up. Jiraiya spread his hands. Old man, your wish has not come true. The third Hokage was calm and did not show too much disappointment, as if Orochimaru's rejection did not affect him. Orochimaru is not a vegetarian, and the Uchiha clan may have to pay the price. The third generation knew Orochimaru well. He was an extreme egoist. As long as it can bring benefits to himself, he doesn't care who his partners are. Whether it's Danzo, Uchiha, or the Leaf Village. It is precisely because of Orochimaru's unscrupulous behavior that it is impossible to control Orochimaru. So the position of fourth Hokage was given to Namikaze Minato. Now the situation is different. Uchiha is powerful, and no one in Konoha can compete with Mangekyō Sharingan except Jiraiya. Danzo's ambition can no longer be curbed. There must be other survivors in that experiment. In recent years, the prestige of this position has been declining year by year. This time, Uchiha Kawasaki's move to take over as the clan leader has further revealed his ambition. Even if the current difficulties are temporarily overcome, the future situation is not optimistic. If Orochimaru can return, Konoha will be able to strengthen its power to fight against Uchiha. Advertisement. The Sound Village established by the Land of Fields fully demonstrated Orochimaru's strength. The fact that Orochimaru was plotted against by illusion is not a hurdle that can be easily overcome. Even if we take a step back and say that Orochimaru and Uchiha have a delicate relationship. If Orochimaru wants to return to the village, Konoha can provide everything that Uchiha can give, and more. In this way, there is no need to worry about Orochimaru's position. The position of Hokage, as well as the power and benefits it brings. It is definitely not comparable to a Uchiha partner. How to choose, it seems not difficult. The third generation is nearly 70 years old, and their energy is not as good as before. If a successor is not selected, will Inye change the surname to Uchiha? As long as the Hokage is not from the Uchiha family, whether it is Orochimaru, Jiraiya, or Tsunade, the third generation can accept it. In Konoha village, in the Hokage office, the third Hokage no longer mentioned the previous topic, and turned to ask about the importance of the king. You are away all year round. Have you collected intelligence from the water country? Jiraiya sat carelessly with one leg on the other, and thought about it after hearing the words. In recent years, there have been many rebellious ninjas in Kurigakure. There are reports that the fourth Mizukage Yagura was manipulated by someone. He was later overthrown. Now Miss Shinobi is the fifth Mizukage. I heard her name is Terumi Mei, and she is quite beautiful. The third generation pondered for a moment. So what Kawasaki said was true. The water country is a long way away, and the third generation did not collect intelligence on purpose. Except for some scattered information brought back by Morino Ibiki before, there is no complete intelligence. In view of Kawasaki's previous mention, the third Hokage reorganized the information and verified it with each other to ensure its authenticity. Jiraiya's return at this time is just in time. After all, Jiraiya's intelligence network is quite good. His books are popular throughout the ninja world, and many bookstores are willing to help him collect intelligence. Is the information reliable? The third generation still asked worriedly. Jiraiya nodded and said, this is the information that flowed into the black market from the defecting ninja Miss Shinobi. The third generation paced back and forth. The authenticity of the black market information must be credible, otherwise it would be difficult to buy it. It seems that Obito is really a scourge to the ninja world. He caused the Nine Tails Rebellion many years ago and then retaliated against Miss Shinobi. The Nine Tails Rebellion caused many casualties, especially Miss Shinobi. Many bloodline limit families were wiped out. One after another, famous bloodline limit disappeared forever in the Land of Water. A large number of Miss Shinobi defected, and the national strength of the Land of Water was greatly reduced. Although the new Mizukage has come to power, it is probably extremely difficult to clean up such a mess. Naruto was attacked not long ago, and his chakra went out of control and formed a chakra coat. You may need to go see him. Quote. The third Hokage was quite troubled. Naruto had been with Sasuke a lot in recent years, and he no longer told him many things. Especially the details of the attack. The memory fragments of the 4 sacrificed Anbu members were read by the Secret Arts Department. Naruto had clearly learned the shadow clone technique, but he didn't tell him. Unfortunately, the video fragments were incomplete, otherwise Naruto's secrets could be discovered. Now Jiraiya happened to be back, and with him, the seal would not be a problem. Jiraiya could discipline Naruto well and try to pass on the will of fire to him. Chakra coat. When Jiraiya heard this, his lazy expression instantly converged. The third Hokage waved his hand. Don't worry, the seal has been checked and is intact. It's just right, you checked carefully, why Nine Tails chakra was leaked. Jiraiya's face also became a little solemn. Don't worry, I will stay in Konaha for some time. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door, and the third generation was a little surprised. Why did so many important things come today? Come in. And Anbu came in and saw that only the third Hokage and Jiraiya were there, so he said directly. Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama is back. Huh, the third Hokage and Jiraiya were both surprised. Why is she back? Where is she? Anbu saw the two staring at him with wide eyes and swallowed. Tsunade-sama went to Uchiha. In the Uchiha territory. After Itachi received the message from Kawasaki. Through the reverse summoning technique, Kawasaki was recalled from the hidden sound village. As soon as Kawasaki returned to the tribe, he heard the news that Tsunade was about to arrive. What a hard life. Kawasaki sighed, and then gathered some Uchiha tribesmen for a simple rehearsal. Although Kawasaki was not very polite to Tsunade in the Iron Kingdom, Tsunade came to serve as a medical consultant this time. With so many tribesmen present, we must show due respect. Soon, Tsunade arrived. Led by Kawasaki, a group of Uchiha elites lined up in 2 rows. When Tsunade appeared, both rows of Uchiha bowed and saluted. Welcome to Tsunade. Tsunade was stunned. Although the etiquette was strange, she reacted quickly. After all, she was of noble status and had seen all kinds of scenes. But she did not expect Kawasaki to give her face like this. Tsunade coughed, adjusted her manners, and slowly walked towards Kawasaki. Shizune behind her also stood up unconsciously. Tsunade walked through the crowd and came to the Uchiha gate. Kawasaki had been waiting there for a long time. Chapter 101. Tsunade the Prodigal. The Secret of Mangekyo. Danzo's Action. Welcome to Uchiha, Master Tsunade. Your presence has made Uchiha more beautiful. Tsunade pinched his brows. Okay, Kawasaki, I received your kindness. You don't have to do this. I'm not used to it. Kawasaki chuckled. Although he was the one who funded it, he had to give Tsunade some face in front of the Uchiha people present. Then please come in, Master Tsunade. The clan has prepared a welcome banquet for you. Kawasaki asked Kiming to lead the way, and he stood beside Shizune. Tsunade saw that the current territory of Uchiha was built very simply, without any extra decoration. All the residences were almost the same. It felt a little novel, because the larger the ninja clan, the more demanding the environment was. Mountain scenery, water scenery, vegetation, everything was included. This is how the style of the big family can be demonstrated. Tsunade had been to the previous territory of Uchiha, which was built in that style. Now, everything in the Uchiha territory seems to be simple, and there are no useless things. Just as Tsunade was laying out the Uchiha territory, Kawasaki quietly fell back 2 steps and approached Shizune. Shizune, have you spent the money I gave you last time? Shizune shook his head. 3 days after Lord Kawasaki left, the money disappeared. Kawasaki's face sank. Tsunade was really like this. He would not give up until he lost all the money. How could Shizune's money disappear? It was obviously Tsunade who used it. Then again, it's not a bad thing that Tsunade loves gambling so much. After all, the Uchiha family has plenty of money now. It's a good opportunity to take advantage of it. Tsunade stepped into the reception room and saw a round table in the middle. There was also a turntable-like glass embedded on the table. Uchiha Fugaku and Makoto stood there, and next to them was Itachi. This arrangement was both formal and friendly. Fugaku turned to look at Tsunade when he heard the voice. As a medical ninja, the national champion's first reaction was to observe Fugaku's eyes. But at this time, Fugaku's eyes were closed and not open. Kiming led everyone into the house and then retreated, closing the door. Fugaku, Master Tsunade is here. Fugaku has a keen sense of perception. Even if he can't see, he can roughly determine the direction. He smiled in the direction of Tsunade and said, Welcome Master Tsunade to Uchiha, please take a seat. Tsunade was not shy and sat down naturally. She hadn't seen Fugaku for many years, so she asked with concern, Fugaku, what's wrong with your eyes? Fugaku said calmly and smiled softly, I'm sorry to make you laugh, Master Tsunade. There was a traitor in the clan and we were plotted against. Now I can't see. Quote. Tsunade had heard about it on her way back, and the big events in Konoha were basically spread all over the place. Many people were also discussing Obito's bounty, 300 million, which was really a lot. If it weren't for the time-space ninjutsu that made her helpless, I'm afraid she would have been tempted. Kawasaki introduced Makoto and Itachi on the side. They had met Tsunade in their early years, and it seemed very natural. Sasuke didn't come, and the things he was about to talk about were not suitable for children to hear. In the Uchiha territory, After everyone sat down, the four Kawasaki began to introduce the delicacies on the table to Tsunade. Tsunade, you have come from afar, and as a host, I have specially prepared these, and I guarantee that you have never tasted them before. Quote. Well, this is called cabbage in clear soup. Quote. Tsunade followed the instructions and saw a white porcelain bowl filled with the most ordinary cabbage. Tsunade was puzzled. What was so special about it that it needed to be introduced? Seeing Tsunade's puzzled face, Kawasaki chuckled and said, Tsunade, you will know if you try it. Tsunade picked up the cabbage and tasted it. A rich but not greasy aroma spread in her mouth. The soup was fresh and the vegetables were tender, fresh and delicious. Tsunade's eyes lit up when she ate. She had traveled all over the ninja world and visited all the major prefectures, but these dishes were really the first time she had tasted them. Well, not bad. Tsunade ate while listening to Kawasaki introduce other dishes. This is braised pigeon, boiled dried shredded vegetables, Buddha jumps over the wall. In his previous life, Kawasaki was engaged in catering training, and he roughly remembered these dishes. There are several chefs in the Uchiha tribe who were trained by him. Although his cooking skills in the original world were mediocre, they were already amazing enough in this other world without a food tradition. Tsunade enjoyed the meal and the atmosphere gradually became harmonious. As they ate and talked, Tsunade heard a lot from Kawasaki about the heavy things that happened to Obito in the past. There was also the injustice that Uchiha had suffered in recent years, as well as the reasons behind this injustice and the connivance of those people. Tsunade frowned when he heard it. Seeing that the time was ripe, Kawasaki changed the topic and served Tsunade wine. Since the incident that year, Tsunade has been addicted to gambling and drinking. This time, when they came to Uchiha to talk about business, Kawasaki did not serve too much wine. Everyone just gave it a little. Although Tsunade did not enjoy the drink, he was a guest after all. He could not drink as much as usual. The dinner was coming to an end, and Fugaku was ready to leave first. This trip was to show respect for Tsunade. After all, how could you be rude to someone who was a medical consultant? Advertisement. Besides, Tsunade was in a high position, so it was always right to give him enough face. Fugaku, wait a minute, let me see your eyes. Since Tsunade agreed to come, she would not hide it. Of course, since Uchiha gave her such face, she would naturally do her best. Fugaku stopped, although she knew it well, but how could she refuse the kindness of her opponent? Moreover, Kawasaki had already discussed with Fugaku about inviting Tsunade back, and all the countermeasures were ready. For a master like Tsunade, eye examination does not require any equipment. She asked Fugaku to sit down and opened his eyes. Tsunade observed for a moment, and a light flashed on his hand. After several tests, he shook his head regretfully. Fugaku, your eyesight doesn't seem to be caused by injury, but rather by natural deterioration. After checking, Tsunade found that Fugaku's eyes were naturally blind, like those of an old man in his 70s or 80s, not because of injury. Fugaku nodded and revealed a secret. Our Uchiha's Mangekyo will go blind when the pupil power is exhausted. This time it was Tsunade's turn to be surprised. What does that mean? The secret of Mangekyo was told to me just like that. You know, in this world, Kakashi's eyes were taken away before he experienced Mangekyo. Therefore, the information that Mangekyo would cause vision loss was unknown to the outside world. The Uchiha clan was in a good situation, so there was no need to reveal this secret to Tsunade, an outsider. But Tsunade was not so naive as to think that Uchiha trusted her. After all, she had lived for so long. She understood that Uchiha must have some intention. Kawasaki smiled and said, Fugaku's eyes have been checked. Please, Master Tsunade, take a look at Itachi again. He winked and asked Itachi to come over. Tsunade didn't understand why, but she still checked Itachi. To her surprise, the young Itachi's eyes were also abnormal, and his vision was also declining. You know, Itachi is only 16 years old and is in the period of physiological development, but his eye disease is not normal. Kawasaki gestured to Fugaku and Itachi to leave first. Master Tsunade, you have seen just now that our Uchiha's Mangekyō Sharingan actually has its defects. Long-term use will lead to blindness. Tsunade nodded. What do you want to say? Kawasaki shrugged. Our Uchiha clan was forced to the edge of Konaha because of Danzo. We have discussed the cause and effect in detail. Today's dinner table is just a demonstration and supplement. Tsunade-sama has found out about the problem with our Mangekyo Sharingan through the inspection. We only use it to protect ourselves. Since Tsunade-sama is willing to come to Uchiha, he must have no prejudice against us Uchiha. I also trust Tsunade-sama very much. If Tsunade-sama investigates Danzo, we can cooperate. As long as Danzo is eliminated, we Uchiha can return to Konaha. Tsunade frowned. She had no intention of intervening in the dispute between Konaha and Uchiha at the moment. But Tsunade knew in her heart that Konaha village with Uchiha family and Konaha village without Uchiha are two completely different things. As for Danzo, she must check it out. Maybe she can also join forces with Uchiha. After all, she is now Uchiha's medical consultant. Tsunade nodded. I'll think about it. Let's treat your people first. Kawasaki responded and led Tsunade out. They crossed the yard and entered the tribe's medical room. There were several injured members lying in the room, most of them looked bad. Those with minor injuries had already passed away, and those who were left were all seriously injured. Shizune was already there, and when Tsunade arrived, she came forward to talk to her. When everyone saw Kawasaki coming, they greeted him. "Hello, tribe leader." Kawasaki nodded. He was a very casual person, and there was no airs at all. "This is Master Tsunade. You will be the medical consultant of our Uchiha clan from now on. You know Miss Shizune next to you, don't worry about your injuries." Sir Tsunade is such a big shot, he actually came to our Uchiha as a consultant. Several Uchiha people are very proud. Shizune and Tsunade exchanged. Their treatment methods are average, but the medicines they use are all top-notch. You will recover after recuperating for a while. In the Uchiha clan land. In the medical room. Because Tsunade has hemophobia, this kind of trauma is mostly handled by Shizune, who only needs to give instructions. Shizune has been with Tsunade for many years, so it goes without saying how good her medical skills are. Seeing the Uchiha clan members looking at her expectantly, Tsunade comforted him. "Your injuries do not require special treatment. The medicine is so good, and you will recover after resting for a while." "Thank you, Master Tsunade. Thank you, Master Tsunade." Although Tsunade did not treat the patient herself, her authority in medicine is unquestionable, and her words are the golden rule. Kawasaki nodded on the side. The Uchiha tribe makes so much money, and even Tsunade praises the good use of medicine, which shows that the effect is indeed good. "Master Tsunade, please go this way, the seriously ill are inside." Quote. Kawasaki led Tsunade and Shizune to the inner room. As soon as he entered, Tsunade saw Ora and Raikuto lying on the bed. The two had just heard the noise outside. They were a little excited to know that the clan leader had invited Tsunade. Although they were injured only a few days ago, they were both afraid that they would be bedridden forever. Ora was fine, only a leg was broken. Raikuto was even more panicked. Except for the fact that he had no feeling below his neck, the medical ninja in the clan reminded them to be mentally prepared. Isn't this mental preparation just preparing to accept disability? The two of them couldn't help feeling lost and afraid. Advertisement. After years of struggle, they finally became elite jonin. How much sweat and suffering they had shed, how many times they had passed by Shinigami. Although they didn't regret being injured in the battle for the clan, they still couldn't hide their sadness when they thought about becoming disabled. Fortunately, there is always a way out. They heard that Lord Kawasaki had invited Tsunade back, so they didn't despair completely. Patiently waiting for so long, Master Tsunade is finally here, how can they not be excited? Kawasaki came in and saw Ora and Raikuto stretching their necks to look at him. "Lie down, why are you so excited? Master Tsunade will be staying in the tribe in the future. Are you afraid that there will be no chance to treat you?" Kawasaki came in and saw two people who looked like mummies. Ready to move. Tsunade has seen many patients, and can understand the patient's feelings. But these two people were seriously injured, and they only received preliminary treatment. The specific situation depends on the affected area. Tsunade winked at Shizune, signaling her to check. Shizune walked towards the two and said, "This minor injury does not require Master Tsunade to take action at all, I will check it out." Tsunade crossed her arms and said, "Okay, Shizune, report to me after you check it out." His tone was very relaxed, and Ora and Riku felt relieved. The serious injuries in their eyes were not worth her personal treatment in Tsunade's eyes. What is confidence? This is confidence. Tsunade and Kawasaki walked out of the room together. Sure enough, the wound was caused by wood style. So, Obito is the mastermind behind the Nine Tails Rebellion, and Nishi is the murderer who attacked Fugaku. Kawasaki added. He was the one who attacked Kakashi. He dug out Kakashi's eyes, and Kakashi had seen his face. It's complicated. Tsunade rubbed her brows. Obito has two people who can use wood style, but it's unknown why they can do it. But Konaha has only one person who can use wood style, Tenzo, who is the product of the human body of Dan and Orochimaru. In the past, only first-generation Hashirama could use wood style, but now there are three. It is known that Obito and his accomplices have ill intentions towards Konaha and Uchiha. It is unknown whether Danzo has a secret deal with Obito. Tsunade can't take care of the Nine Tails Rebellion for the time being. It seems that she came back to investigate Danzo. The Nine Tails Rebellion will be left to the old man and the Uchiha family. Tenzo survived the experiment, and others may have survived. As Danzo's assistant to the deputy Hokage, it would be easy to get some human materials. Quote. Perhaps, Danzo was studying wood style earlier, and he was in touch with Obito at that time. These need to be confirmed by the third Hokage, Master Tsunade. Kawasaki smiled, but his words were sharp. The third generation actually knew all the things Danzo had done in the past. But because they needed to use Danzo, they often chose to turn a blind eye. Danzo became more and more unscrupulous. If it weren't for his actions, how could Konoha become what it is now? He planned to use it as a hospital within the Uchiha clan. But because of some problems with Orochimaru, the Uchiha members of Ōtsutsuki might come back in the future. The rest was to select the medical ninjas from the Uchiha clan. Since Obito has wood style, his relationship with Danzo becomes meaningful. Although Obito's wood style has nothing to do with Danzo, in Tsunade's cognition, the trap should be caused by her grandfather Hashirama. So he planned to include the Uchiha from Otogaku as well. Otherwise, if something goes wrong during the first treatment in Uchiha, it would be really embarrassing. Tsunade took a deep breath and prepared to solve the problem in front of her. The two seriously injured people also needed to prepare the corresponding medical medicines and tools. Quote, Lord Tsunade, there are 4 floors here, with 20 rooms on each floor. All of them are for you to use. Just tell us how to arrange them and what equipment you need. We at Uchiha will solve them as soon as possible. Problems that require money to solve are not a problem at Uchiha. Tsunade was mentally prepared for Kawasaki's generosity. Every room in front of him was spacious and bright. Although it is still vacant, the location and orientation are very good. Ding. Shizune turned and walked out. The examination is complete. He knew that Tsunade was afraid of blood, so it was not realistic to ask Tsunade to do the operation. Kawasaki added on the side. I understand. Shizune looked calm. The nervous system has different degrees of damage, but the good news is that the nerves are not completely broken and can be reconnected by surgery. What medical equipment and medicinal materials are needed? Just tell Kiming directly and pick the best ones. Quote. Kawasaki took Tsunade to a newly built 4-story building next to the clan's land. We had to find a way to treat her. Master Tsunade. Quote. List the problems they may encounter, and I will give you some guidance before you go for surgery. Kawasaki had already selected a group before. In this way, as long as there is bleeding trauma, Shizune is basically responsible for handling it. Tsunade's anger was suppressed, but from her flashing eyes, it can be seen that a good show is about to begin. Tsunade nodded. This is the best. Shizune has been with her for so many years and has rich experience in dealing with trauma. Kawasaki asked Kiming to follow Shizune to arrange these things. Perhaps even Danzo is behind the Nine Tails Rebellion. But this would be too much trouble. There would be many places where Tsunade would be needed in the future, and she couldn't always be afraid of blood. After Tsunade's comprehensive guidance, she went into battle herself. How is the situation? Yes. Shizune is accustomed to this mode. In the past, she also checked first and listed the possible problems. Chapter 102 Tsunade's Fury. Arrest Danzo. Kawasaki. Conan's gift. Just when Tsunade and Kawasaki were discussing how to arrange the venue, Kiming came in to report that Jiraiya had arrived. Oh, Jiraiya was actually back. Kawasaki was busy receiving Tsunade, so he was not very clear about the news from Konaha. Did Toku come here because he saw Tsunade coming? Tsunade did not hide her whereabouts. After all, she was going to find the 3rd generation later. Konaha should have known about her arrival in Uchiha. But I didn't expect Jiraiya to join in the fun. Oh, Jiraiya, Conan's master. Kawasaki narrowed his eyes slightly, ready to pull Jiraiya into the ranks of those who opposed Danzo. What wind blew Master Jiraiya here today? Fugaku couldn't see, and Itachi came back quietly, so Kawasaki personally greeted him. Jiraiya looked at Kawasaki, who was leaning lazily against the door, and it was really hard to connect him with the new head of Uchiha. Kawasaki, Tsunade is here. Kawasaki nodded. Yes, before Obito attacked, there were 2 seriously injured people in the tribe, and only Tsunade could save them. Oh, Jiraiya frowned and nodded, but he was wondering whether Tsunade's hemophobia could be cured. Kawasaki smiled. You are here to find Tsunade. Come on, I'll take you in. Kawasaki walked in. Jiraiya shrugged his nose. Somehow, he always felt that Kawasaki's smile was a bit strange. Kawasaki led Jiraiya to the room outside the treatment room, where Tsunade and Shizune were discussing the treatment plan. When Jiraiya came, Tsunade looked up, glanced at Jiraiya unhappily, and didn't say hello. Continued to discuss with Shizune what equipment the medical room needs to be equipped with. Jiraiya was a little confused. Shouldn't old friends be talking and laughing when they meet again? How did he make Tsunade unhappy? Okay, let's go. If all these instruments are fully equipped, it will be much easier for Urawa Raikudo to perform surgery. Tsunade and Shizune finally determined the treatment plan and asked Shizune to go to Kiming, 650, to purchase relevant medical equipment. Then Tsunade and Jiraiya stared at each other. The atmosphere was very strange. Kawasaki smacked his lips. Master Tsunade, how about I arrange a room for you? Tsunade nodded. Then I'll trouble you. Kawasaki got up and took Tsunade and Jiraiya to a quiet room. In the Uchiha tribe, after Kawasaki sent the 2 into the room, he left tactfully. In the room, Tsunade looked at Jiraiya unhappily. What are you doing here? Jiraiya scratched his head. Haha, I heard that you're back, so I'm happy and came to see you. Don't try to be so rude. Tell me, what do you want to talk to me about? Tsunade never likes to beat around the bush. Jiraiya's face also became a little serious. Why don't you go back to Konaha to see that old man first? Tsunade crossed his hands. I will naturally go to see him, but there are 2 wounded people here who need my help, so I came. Jiraiya was silent for a moment. Just treat 2 wounded people, Shizune is not enough. Tsunade snorted. Of course not only, Uchiha has hired me as a medical consultant, and I will be stationed in Uchiha in the future. Jiraiya's heart sank. What he feared was really what he feared. Why so sudden? Don't you dislike being frozen? Tsunade spread his hands. No way, Kawasaki gave too much. Quote. Jiraiya was choked. Now everyone knows that Uchiha is rich, and Tsunade is also known to love money. It seems that there is nothing wrong. What do you think of Kawasaki's recent succession ceremony? Jiraiya had fought with Kawasaki before, and at that time he asserted to the third generation that Kawasaki was not an ambitious person. But now that several years have passed, he doesn't know if Kawasaki has changed. It's just that Kawasaki is now trying to win over Tsunade, which makes Jiraiya anxious for Konaha. Tsunade sneered. She had just examined Fugaku and Itachi and learned that Mangekyō Sharingan would eventually lead to blindness. In her opinion, Konaha's defensive attitude was completely a case of judging others by one's own standards. Uchiha completely left Konaha, but it was forced by the top leaders of Konaha. Don't worry, Uchiha has no ambition to overthrow Konaha. Instead of worrying about Uchiha, it's better to worry about Danzo, that worm. Tsunade seemed to be defending Uchiha, but she knew that she was telling the truth. Danzo. Jiraiya's most profound impression of Danzo was the baby experiment. He had been unable to persuade Orochimaru to come back before, and Jiraiya had always had a knot in his heart. Later, he had been perfunctory about catching Orochimaru, until the third Hokage got into trouble and found that Orochimaru might not be that bad. Jiraiya began to run between Otogaku and Konaha. Just to recall Orochimaru, Tsunade was naturally dissatisfied with this. After all, Danzo used the body of her grandfather, first Hokage Hashirama, for the experiment. Do you know that someone survived the experiment back then? Tsunade asked sharply. What? Someone survived the experiment? Jiraiya was full of surprise. Last time, the third Hokage only said that the baby was killed by Danzo. He didn't tell him that there were survivors. Advertisement. Tsunade saw that Jiraiya didn't look fake, and snorted. So you don't know either. Jiraiya wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Tsunade. Let's go, I just want to meet the old man and ask him something. Okay, after all, this is the Uchiha clan, and many things are not suitable to be said. The two walked out side by side, and Shizune ran outside. Master Tsunade, Ora and Raikuto are in a stable condition. I plan to perform the operation after the medical room is fully equipped. Shizune is a very opinionated person. Tsunade nodded and said, you have done this kind of operation many times, it's okay, just decide for yourself. Tsunade discussed some details with Shizune while walking out of the clan. At this time, Kawasaki leaned against the door frame. Seeing Tsunade and Jiraiya coming over, he asked Tsunade, Master Tsunade, will you stay for dinner tonight? Tsunade was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, I want to eat stewed cabbage. Kawasaki laughed. Okay, don't worry, Master Tsunade. Master Jiraiya, there are many things to do in the clan, so I won't entertain you for long. I will invite you to play next time when I am free. Kawasaki waved his hand casually and turned away. Jiraiya had seen Kawasaki's style a few years ago, so he was not surprised. However, judging from the aura emanating from Kawasaki, this guy is indeed much stronger. Jiraiya and Tsunade walked out of Uchiha's territory. Tsunade walked along and found that Uchiha's territory was full of eyes. Whether it was ninja crows, ninja cats, or monitoring equipment, Uchiha was almost protected indestructibly. Seeing Tsunade sighing about the huge changes in Uchiha, Jiraiya was telling Tsunade about the changes in Uchiha over the years. Although both of them were traveling around. But one was addicted to gambling and drinking, and his way of obtaining information was quite passive. Tsunade even knew less than Shizune. Jiraiya was different. He traveled around the world and was particularly concerned about collecting intelligence. And he was also an out-and-out guardian of Konaha. He would not miss any information related to Konaha. Through the conversation with Jiraiya, Tsunade finally understood the reasons for the changes in Uchiha over the years. All this was caused by the sudden appearance of Kawasaki. Kawasaki's various decisions were to let Uchiha avoid entanglement with the power class of Konaha as much as possible. Instead, focus on its own development. Although other ninja clans also have their own industries, it is the first time that Tsunade has seen such a large-scale industry like Uchiha. Jiraiya also revealed that Uchiha even reached a deal with Orochimaru to do such a prosperous business in Tianguo. Tsunade then knew what the cooperation model between Uchiha and Orochimaru was. Uchiha provided the secret recipe of the restaurant, Orochimaru provided the secret killer, and the two sides jointly promoted the restaurant and shared the profits in the end. Tsunade then realized that Kawasaki's image suddenly became blurred. Would the always unruly Kawasaki have such a mind? The two also passed by the fragrant Uchiha snack street. Tsunade looked at the bustling crowd and understood why the Uchiha clan could live well even without doing missions. Doing business on this street, even ordinary people can make more money than ninjas without taking risks. Uchiha territory is not far from Konaha village. The two were agile and returned to Konaha village in no time. The two went straight to the Hokage building. Jiraiya subconsciously wanted to enter through the window. He saw Tsunade walking straight to the main door and glared at him. He had to jump down awkwardly and follow Tsunade. In the Hokage's office, the third Hokage was already waiting for Tsunade in the office. Unexpectedly, after not seeing each other for many years, Tsunade came back for the first time and went directly to Uchiha, which made the third generation feel mixed. Bang! The door was pushed open. Tsunade walked in front in a hurry, and Jiraiya followed behind and closed the door. Old man, I want to ask a question. Tsunade has always been straightforward, without even a greeting, and went straight to the point. Seeing that Tsunade had no intention of reminiscing about the past, the third Hokage could only ask, "What do you want to ask?" Did a baby survive the experiment? His name is Tenzo. The third generation nodded helplessly. Yes, he is in the department now. There is no way to deny it. It is obvious that this was told by Uchiha Kawasaki. Kawasaki directly intervened in that matter and helped Tenzo. Tsunade snorted and slapped the table. Boom. The whole table cracked in the middle. Why did you use my grandfather's body for experiments without my consent? The third generation could only shirk responsibility at this time. I didn't know about this matter. I sent people to capture Orochimaru after I got the news. I learned about it. Then why don't you hold Danzo responsible? Tsunade asked with dissatisfaction. The third generation sighed. When Orochimaru defected, we all thought it was Orochimaru's fault. Quote. You were not in the village at the time, so I asked Jiraiya to investigate the matter. Orochimaru has not been caught, and the matter has been delayed. Advertisement. Tsunade folded his arms. How are you going to deal with the Uchiha matter? Kawasaki came to me specially, and I testified for Uchiha. I have written a personal letter back. Why hasn't the village clarified it for Uchiha yet? The third generation took a puff of his pipe. It's been so long since the incident, and many things need to be re-investigated, which takes time. Now that the investigation is completed, a statement about the Nine Tails Night will be issued soon. Tsunade rolled his eyes. The Uchiha matter has been announced to the entire ninja world. Konaha has just completed the investigation. I'm afraid you have to announce it. Did only one test subject survive the experiment? The third generation frowned. Only Tenzo should have survived. Tsunade stared at the third generation's eyes. Then why do Obito and his accomplices also use wood style? The third Hokage was silent. He had gone to see Danzo before. Judging from Danzo's words and deeds, Danzo must be hiding something. Old man, arrest Danzo now. We must find out how many secrets he is hiding. Tsunade said sternly. The third generation hesitated and said, it's not appropriate to arrest Danzo suddenly now. Tsunade stared at the third Hokage and didn't speak for a long time. Tsunade was very disappointed. How could the teacher become like this? When did this slow and sloppy decision-making method start? Or did he actually know everything about the past, but he just didn't stop it? Tsunade suddenly lost interest and turned to open the door and walked out. Let's go home and eat. The third generation was blocked before he could finish his words. Tsunade, where are you going? Tsunade didn't answer him and turned to walk down the corridor. Where does Tsunade live? The third generation still doesn't know why Tsunade went to Uchiha. Jiraiya smiled bitterly. Tsunade was invited by Kawasaki to be the medical consultant of the Uchiha clan. What? The third generation almost pulled his beard off. It's okay that Orochimaru was hit by the distinguished heavenly gods, but how come Tsunade was also convinced by the Uchiha? Old man, I think Danzo really needs to be investigated. The third Hokage frowned. Send out the arrangements for the Uchiha on the Nine Tails Night first. Let me think about Danzo's matter. Kawasaki had taken back Tsunade's handwritten letter before, and the third generation thought that the matter was over, but unexpectedly, even Tsunade himself was invited back. The third generation has every reason to doubt whether it will be Jiraiya's turn to be pulled over by Kawasaki next time. In fact, the third generation has already given up on Danzo, but is just making some preparations now. Now, the situation is urgent. The third generation's mind echoed with the words of their teacher Senju Hashirama. Hey, the Uchiha clan. The third generation's eyes gradually became sharper, since they were stronger than. In front of the bulletin board of Konaha. In the past, the bulletin board was rarely updated, and only some important news would be posted for everyone to know. But recently, updates have been one after another. Last time it was about the Uchiha clan, and this time it was about Anbu. For a long time, some villagers have had misunderstandings about the Uchiha clan. On the night of Nine Tails, they did not hide, but assisted non-combatants to retreat under the command of Elder Danzo. The claim that the Uchiha Guard did nothing on the night of Nine Tails is pure rumor. The Uchiha clan has always been an indispensable part of Konoha and has been diligently serving the villagers for many years. Please stop making groundless speculations and prejudices against the Uchiha clan. Quote. Many villagers gathered around and looked at the notice from top to bottom. So, the Uchiha clan went to protect non-combatants during the Nine Tails Night. Why didn't anyone mention it, and no non-combatants came out to clarify? This notice is really funny, why didn't they issue it earlier? That's right, wasn't it said before that the Nine Tails Rebellion was caused by the Uchiha? They have to find evidence to prove their innocence. This notice doesn't even say whether Obito is the real murderer. Quote. Do you think it will be included in the notice? If it is included, doesn't it mean that it's wrong to target Uchiha all these years? Targeted what Uchiha? After the Nine Tails incident, the Uchiha's residential area was forced to move to the edge of the village. Soon after Konaha issued the notice, Kawasaki received news from the Hyuga clan. He glanced at it with disdain on his face. At this time, Konaha is still playing word games. But this is also normal, aren't all the top leaders like this? Never admit mistakes, even if they admit them, they downplay them. Pretend to make a statement and push all the responsibility away. This kind of method, Shizaki has seen a lot in his previous life. It seems to be the same everywhere. But Kawasaki is not in a hurry, he has plenty of ways to put pressure on the third Hokage. So that the third generation will give up Danzo as soon as possible. At this time, the paper crane on his desk came to life, flapping its paper wings and flew in front of Kawasaki. Kawasaki left a clone in the room to handle the affairs. He followed the paper crane and went through the window to the outside of the Uchiha settlement. Conan had been waiting on the tree for a long time. The paper crane circled in the air and slowly landed on Conan's head, turning into a paper flower. Your paper flower is quite interesting. Kawasaki followed closely. If Mr. Kawasaki likes it, I will give you two. Conan smiled gently, looking very playful. Chapter 103 Kawasaki's Tricks. Hashirama sells. Conan. 4th Hokage. Naruto. He is your father. Ah. No. Kawasaki declined. The white paper flower had a bad meaning. Mr. Kawasaki, what do you want to give me? Conan asked. Kawasaki took out a small bottle from his body and handed it to Conan. Conan took it, and there was clear green liquid inside. This is Hashirama cell solution. Conan subconsciously clenched the bottle tightly. Although he didn't know the specific use, as long as it was related to Hashirama cells. It must be a good thing. Kawasaki explained. This cell solution can greatly enhance the body. If you survive the cell erosion, Nagato's legs will be fully recovered, and maybe you can activate the wood-style ability. So precious. Conan picked up the bottle carefully. Isn't this valuable? Kawasaki shook his head. This cannot be measured in money, and I just said that you have to survive the cell erosion first. What if you can't survive it? Conan asked. Kawasaki patted the big tree next to him. It will become like this. Become a tree. Conan took a breath of cold air. Kawasaki nodded. Don't worry too much. Uchiha's Sharingan can inhibit the erosion of Hashirama cells. Nagato has Rinnegan, and there is an 80% chance that he will survive. If Nagato survives, his body will no longer be a weakness. He is from the Uzumaki clan, and Uzumaki and Senju are distant relatives. The benefits of success are super simple. The risk is high, but the reward is also great. Whether to use it or not, you and Nagato should discuss it yourself. Faced with Kawasaki's sudden frankness, Conan felt uneasy, but still carefully put the bottle away. Pieces of paper floated around her, gathered into a honeycomb shape, wrapped around the bottle, and merged into her back. Kawasaki took out 2 more scrolls and handed them to Xiaoyu. There is some money in this storage scroll, you can arrange it yourself. This scroll is your trump card. You can only fight with Obito once. If you can't kill him, you must ensure your own safety. Conan put away the storage scroll, opened another scroll, and his eyes shrank suddenly. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. It's your trump card. If you practice it as soon as possible, it will help you more. Conan carefully put away the scroll. Thank you, Mr. Kawasaki. Conan's gratitude was from the heart. Conan and Nagato actually don't trust anyone. In the previous communication, they learned about Kawasaki's plan. Compared to Obito who killed Kusuke, Kawasaki is obviously more trustworthy. 28 Now that so many supplies have been sent, it will undoubtedly increase their chances of winning against Obito. Kawasaki felt a little mixed when he saw Conan's sincere gratitude. He felt that Nagato had little chance of winning in the contest with Obito. It is certain that Nagato's Rinnegan will be taken back, but he is not sure how many cards Obito can be forced to reveal. If Obito is in trouble, Uchiha Madara may crawl out of the coffin in advance. Now in Uchiha, besides the blind Fugaku, there are 3 pairs of Mangekyō Sharingan. But except for Kawasaki who has the Eternal Eye and various plugins, he can fight. Itachi and Shisui can only deal with a wood-style clone at most. This is the case of Madara's Impure World Reincarnation. Even if Orochimaru can Impure World Reincarnation 1st generation and 2nd generation, it is estimated that it will be difficult. After all, Obito's Kamui is watching covetously. Black Zetsu has been forbearing for many years, it is impossible that he will not Impure World Reincarnation. It's just that without Yakushi Kabuto's blessing to Madara, can Madara still use wood style, or Madara has already prepared a body for resurrection? Otherwise, why is Madara in his prime after Rinne Tensai, instead of old and frail? Jiraiya has returned to the village. Kawasaki sorted out his thoughts and said to Conan. Conan was slightly stunned. It's the teacher. Kawasaki nodded. Jiraiya thought you were all dead these years, so he didn't look for you. Conan was silent, thinking, how could they not be dead? Since Yahiko passed away, their hearts have also gone with her. Now all that remains is an empty shell driven by Yahiko's dream. There is a great opportunity right now for us to bring down Danzo. Kawasaki knew that Konan and Nagato hated Danzo to the core. What opportunity? Konan asked. Over the years, she and Nagato had considered revenge for Yahiko. But Danzo always stayed at home and never left Konaha, leaving them helpless. In fact, Danzo has done more than one bad thing, and he has also caused trouble in the village. But because the third generation has always protected him, or used him as a trump card, he has been safe and sound. As long as the third generation takes the initiative to abandon Danzo, Danzo will not be worth mentioning. Konan nodded. How to do it? Uchiha Snack Street. Naruto, who has been imprisoned for a long time, finally regained his freedom, but there is a person he doesn't want to see behind him. Naruto, there are so many delicious things on this street, not bad. Jiraiya holds a skewer in his hand, eats while following, and never leaves Naruto. Advertisement. Uncle Jiraiya, are you annoying? I don't like you. Can you stop following me? Naruto was in a low mood. Today, the third Hokage told him that the house arrest order was lifted and he could finally go out. But as soon as he went out, he met Jiraiya waiting outside. Jiraiya claimed that he was here to protect Naruto's safety. Over the years, Naruto has grown up a lot. At first, he just didn't like Jiraiya's behavior and didn't understand the meaning behind those behaviors. As he grew older, he gradually understood the things between men and women. Only then did he realize that Jiraiya's behavior was more excessive than he had imagined. So he began to resist this person deep in his heart. However, Jiraiya was surprisingly thick-skinned and stuck to Naruto like a sticky candy. Wherever Naruto went, he went. Even if Naruto ignored him, Jiraiya could talk to himself, making Naruto miserable. If Hinata, little Sakura, and Ino in the school saw him and Jiraiya together, where would his face be put? Jiraiya, who was disliked by Naruto, was quite distressed. Was the sequelae of Kawasaki so serious? How could Naruto still remember those things? Originally, he wanted to have a good relationship with Naruto so that he could become Naruto's teacher in the future. It was also convenient to monitor the ceiling of Nine Tails. Now, Naruto hates him from the bottom of his heart. After returning to the village, Jiraiya behaved very well, either going to a brothel to have fun by himself. He didn't dare to do any peeping things anymore. But now it seems that Naruto's prejudice against him is deeply rooted, and his disgust is beyond words. He couldn't think of a solution for a while, so he could only let Naruto get used to his existence. After all, he is the most suitable person to guide Naruto. Naruto, long time no see. The voice that came to his ear was the one he heard yesterday. Uchiha Kawasaki. This guy, Senior Kawasaki. Naruto was depressed, and suddenly saw Uchiha Kawasaki appear across the street. He was so happy. Naruto rushed over. Kawasaki caught him steadily, and gave Naruto a big hug. Boy, you've grown so much, you must have exercised well in the past few years. Over the years, because Uchiha Sasuke always gave Naruto food and clothes, the third generation had to improve his treatment. The pocket money given to Naruto continued to increase, and his daily nutrition was balanced. Naruto no longer acted up, and with regular exercise, he grew a lot taller and was now as tall as Sasuke. His face was thinner. If he hadn't cut his hair short before, a smaller version of Namikaze Minato would have been born. Kawasaki-senpai, why did you come to see me now? I heard you've been back for several days. Naruto then noticed that there was a beautiful older sister with purple hair and black clothes standing next to Kawasaki. Kawasaki-senpai, who is she? Kawasaki pulled Naruto aside, and Jiraiya behind him also saw Konan. Jiraiya stopped chewing. You've grown up and become a beautiful woman, BUU. Where have you been all these years? I thought you were. We are indeed dead. Konan didn't have the joy of meeting an old friend on his face, and was even colder to Jiraiya. It seems that Master Jiraiya needs to find a place to reminisce. Kawasaki said with a smile on his face. As soon as Jiraiya saw Kawasaki's attitude, he knew that Konan must have been invited by Kawasaki. Why is Konan here? Kawasaki covered his mouth and chuckled. Well, I became the chief of the tribe, and Konan came to congratulate me as a special envoy of Rain Shinobi Village. Kawasaki, what tricks are you playing? Jiraiya hadn't seen Konan for many years, and now he wanted to know the whereabouts of Yahiko and Nagato. But Konan's attitude was obviously unusually cold to him. This puzzled Jiraiya. Konan was the most gentle among the children back then, but now he is completely different. Let Konan talk to you, I will take Naruto away. Jiraiya lowered his eyes. He was not as vigilant against Kawasaki as the third generation. Since he was under his nose, Kawasaki couldn't kidnap Naruto. Naruto was confused. Jiraiya knew this big sister named Konan. Why did they look so unfriendly? Let's go, Naruto. Yeah, okay. Seeing Kawasaki had gone far away, Naruto hurriedly chased after her. With Jiraiya accompanying Naruto, the Anbu previously arranged by the third generation took a break. At this time, Jiraiya and Konan went to chat, and Naruto was just free. Kawasaki led Naruto to continue walking and saw a small shop selling tofu pudding. He ordered a bowl of tofu pudding for Naruto and himself. The soul of this tofu pudding lies in the red oil seasoning. Kawasaki searched for many kinds of peppers in this world and asked the chef to try to make it, and then he copied this spicy red oil. Without this red oil, the charm of tofu pudding is greatly reduced. Kawasaki was from Sichuan in his previous life, and there was no sweet tofu pudding. Of course, you can add any flavor you like, but Naruto has been led into the pit of salty party by Kawasaki. Advertisement. Naruto, how have you been getting along with Nine Tails these years? Kawasaki asked while eating. Naruto scratched his head. Sometimes Nine Tails would say a few words to me, but not much. Kawasaki nodded. Naruto hasn't graduated from the ninja school yet, and it's good to be able to communicate with Nine Tails occasionally. Just because Obito got back his Kamui Eye, the process of training Naruto can also be accelerated. Naruto, do you remember the promise I made to you when I left? Naruto was holding the spicy tofu pudding that Kawasaki had just bought in his hand, and was eating it with relish. He swallowed it in 2 mouthfuls after hearing the words. 12, 19. Naruto's cheeks puffed up a few times, and he finally swallowed the hot tofu pudding. Kawasaki looked at Naruto, who was still clumsy, and couldn't help but smile knowingly. This temper might be inherited from Kushina. Kawasaki grabbed a few tissues and wiped Naruto's mouth. Eat slowly, talk slowly. Naruto took the tissue shyly and laughed silly. Aren't you in a hurry to respond to what Kawasaki said? Kawasaki saw that there were many people around and Naruto had already wiped his mouth, so he gently pressed one hand on Naruto's head. Naruto's eyes went dark and he returned to that familiar place again. Kawasaki looked around, and Naruto's inner world was different from the past. The once wet ground and the endless corridor were no longer visible, replaced by the vast grassland under the blue sky and white clouds. All this directly reflects the healthy state of Naruto's state of mind. The only thing that has not changed is the distant and tall cage, which still connects the sky and the earth. Kawasaki stamped his feet on the grass twice, and the touch was almost the same as the real grass. Naruto, the future ninja world may not be peaceful, so the teacher decided to fulfill his promise in advance today. Naruto was curiously looking at the surrounding grassland, and did not expect that Senior Kawasaki would suddenly say that he would fulfill his promise in advance. Really, Teacher Kawasaki? Naruto has been looking forward to the day of graduation from the ninja school day and night in the past few years. Because at graduation, he can reveal the mystery of his biological parents. Every time he sent Sasuke home, Naruto was particularly envious of Sasuke's parents. Fortunately, Uncle Fugaku and Aunt Makoto were very kind to him, which brought him some comfort. Kawasaki led Naruto to the direction of Nine Tails. Really, but don't get scared later. Huh, Naruto looked confused and followed Kawasaki to Nine Tails' cage. Nine Tails' fiery eyes examined Kawasaki. Kawasaki, you've become more powerful again. Nine Tails' voice was deafening, accompanied by a burning breath and strong wind pressure. Kawasaki shook his head. You've gotten along well with the landlord over the years, but you're too cold. 310. Fugaku has been Naruto's training supervisor for the past few years. Although he doesn't understand the sealing technique, it can be seen that Nine Tails' chakra has not affected Naruto over the years. Although Naruto and Nine Tails have not been able to communicate frequently, at least Nine Tails has not made trouble again. Nine Tails. See you again. Naruto was not afraid of Nine Tails at all when he saw Nine Tails. After all, they were old acquaintances. Humph, kid. Nine Tails snorted and didn't want to pay attention to Naruto. Kawasaki ignored their interaction and shouted at the cage, Namikaze Minato. Come out. Nine Tails stood up suddenly, with a fierce light in his eyes. Where is the 4th Hokage? Naruto was also confused. Senior Kawasaki, were you calling the 4th Hokage just now? Seeing that the 4th generation had not yet appeared, Kawasaki raised his lips. If you don't come out, I will break the seal. After that, Kawasaki soared into the air, stood on the huge seal sticker, and really put his hand on it. Forget it, Kawasaki. A gentle voice sounded in my ears. At this moment, Naruto's spiritual space minister, the 4th Hokage, with shining blonde hair, sunny, handsome and gentle, was wearing a Hokage robe. Wearing a green vest and a blue tights, he appeared. Finally, you're willing to come out, Minato. Kawasaki's expression was slightly teasing. Minato was really patient and had to break the seal himself before he was willing to show up. Kawasaki, I shouldn't come out now. My chakra can't last too long. When Naruto suffered in the early years, the 4th Hokage saw it clearly inside Naruto's body. Later, Kawasaki's arrival was like a ray of light shining into Naruto's life, making Naruto's life better and better. Although Kawasaki and Minato had only met a few times, Minato felt as if he had known Kawasaki for a long time and was full of gratitude to Kawasaki. Kawasaki's Sharingan turned and confirmed that Minato's chakra was indeed insufficient and could not last too long. He waved his hand. Don't worry so much. I learned impure world reincarnation from Orochimaru and dug your grave. I'll take your impure world reincarnation out later, and you can see Naruto as long as you want. Quote. Nine Tails on the side roared angrily. 4th generation. Roar. Kawasaki's Sharingan instantly turned into Mangekyo, and the surging pupil power burst out, and Nine Tails instantly stiffened and could not move. Sorry, Nine Tails, I will suppress you for a while, so that they can reminisce about the past. Kawasaki slapped the sealing door with his hand, and the same four-symbol sealing technique rotated out along the seal on the door, and the cage rumbled. Countless prison doors fell from the sky again, isolating Nine Tails layer by layer, and the distance was getting farther and farther. It's just a seal, I'll take care of these. The little chakra you left is not of much use. Naruto has been an orphan for so long, why don't you recognize Naruto quickly? Namikaze Minato smiled bitterly, and he was not angry when he heard that his grave was dug up. Besides, Kawasaki was right. Kawasaki had both sealing techniques and Sharingan, so Nine Tails was not a problem at all. Naruto was stunned, listening to what Senior Kawasaki said, the fourth Hokage is my father. Kawasaki and Namikaze Minato landed together. Come, Naruto, this is your deceased father, the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato.